$900 Central Africa time here on the Newsroom, Jumbo Africa. I'm Elvis Preslin. And of course, we'll be with you until 12 o'clock today. We focus on South Africa, which is a semi-arid, water-stressed country and is faced with major water challenges, Kendall.
Absolutely, and we want to find out from you, what do you think we can do with this particular matter? It's of grave concern to all of us. How can we manage our water resources better?
It's a question to you, a very, very personal one as well. Let's take a look at what you are telling us on the Facebook page as well as on the Twitter handle. Above and Beyond says water leaks are a huge contributor. Now that's a big problem there. In my ward alone, I have calculated 47 houses with serious leaks. A campaign is needed. Tried my luck with a councillor with no luck. Equip skilled, employ or stipends. Volunteers are always available, and that's a good thing to do if you look at that. In fact, there was a campaign here in Johannesburg. I don't know how far that went. Ken.
Yeah, just a couple of weeks ago, there was a huge geyser in one of the roads close to my house that was running for hours and hours and hours before it got stopped.
So
we've got another tweet. Malibongo Monyonyo says our government is doing so much, but we also need to take responsibility to save water. At the moment, people do not care.
Well, do you care? Because we are in problems, people, serious problems. We got problems around the issue of water. If you look at the Western Cape, if you look at KZN, Western Cape is on the brink.
Even Gauteng could be on the brink very soon.
So we also focus on the State Security Agency, the SSA. They've sent yet another cease and desist letter to Jacques Pau, the author of the book, The President's Keepers. They want him to withdraw that book from the bookshelves.
Wow, wow. Now, we want to find out for you, there was a power outage at Jacques Pau's book launch last night. The book's called The President's Keeper. So we want to find out from you, what do you think of this? Was it A, coincidence, B, an accident, or C, an act of deliberate sabotage?
Well, so far, 74%, the majority of you in South Africa as well as the African continent are suggesting that this was all about sabotage. It had nothing to do with an accident. It was not a coincidence. 16% only said it was a coincidence.
Chris May says the question is, how often does the power go out there? If you say seldom or never, then we have the answer. Hashtag the President's Keeper.
Also remember that Hyde Park, where the outage happened, they've got 2 generators.
Wow.
And the generators did not kick in.
Wow.
What does that tell you?
Tells you a lot.
Rangwani says, smells like sabotage to me. Even the backup didn't come online, I hear. Luckily, it's nothing to worry about. The book is out, and many have spent sleepless nights reading it. Sleepless nights, rather. How Zuma has blindsided everyone, mostly the African National Congress. Well, those are your comments. Keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. But, as usual, we deal with sports.
Once again, yes, we've got sports on the cards. We're still talking about the 2 million kuna. Tomorrow is a massive match against Senegal. First of 2 back-to-back ties. I want to find out, you know, has 2 million kuna's injury shown up South Africa's lack of depth in the goalkeeping department?
Because remember, he'll be showing up with a
mask. If he passes a fitness test,
if he passes the fitness test, right?
Yes, Matthew Sumpatlele has got a comment on it.
He says there's no lack of depth. There are young, talented goalkeepers that can do great work, more greater work than Kuna, but they are not given a chance. Is that really the case?
Well, we don't know, but that's an interesting comment there. Ati Nimbene says, yes, we don't have goalkeepers. Lack.
But why? In a country of 55 million people?
Yeah.
That is another one, but that's what we have for you. Let's now get down to business and take a look at your news headlines. A second gag order by the State Security Agency against Jacques Pau's book, The President's Keepers, was issued last night. Isidimeni hearings extended as families continue with testimonies over the loss of their loved ones. And Zimbabwe's former vice president vows to take charge of ZANU-PF after returning to the country he has fled. Those are your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the golf course.
Oh yes, all roads lead to Sun City this morning. Good morning, Elvis, and good morning to you at home as well. All roads do lead to Sun City. It's Nedbank Golf Challenge time, and Dylan Fratelli is meant to be teeing off this morning at 9 o'clock a couple of minutes ago, and we're also expecting to have tees off by Ian Poulter and Larrathabal. And as you can see on your picture, you've got the beautiful bush that surrounds Sun City out in Puking, Rustenburg. Let's take some quick live commentary here to see what they're saying there. Right, just one day away from the crucial back-to-back World Cup qualifying tie against Senegal, the focus is still on Dominic Kuna's fitness to take his place between the sticks.
At the moment, it's impossible to stay because his vision is not impaired greatly, but we don't know how the mask is going to affect that again, and we don't know how he's going to feel when he's banging himself on the ground.
And the Grand Slam T20 rolls into action tomorrow, and with Otis Gibson, South Africa's new coach, just starting his tenure, everyone will be looking to impress.
You go and do well against the sides and in this competition, and you could easily find yourself in a squad somewhere like that, and I think that's very exciting.
Well, there you have it. There's John Smuts there talking about the opportunities that he sees beckoning as they play the Ram Slam T20 for this year. All this and more a little later at about 10:40. Do stay with Elvis as he's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. The State Security Agency has sent yet another cease and desist letter to get the book The President's Keepers withdrawn from the bookshelves. But this time, the letter was sent to its title editor, Russell Martin. The author, Jacques Poe, revealed this during the official launch of his book in Johannesburg last night. However, the launch had to be abandoned due to a power failure.
They gathered in their hundreds to hear what motivated Jacques Poe's book. It contains explosive new allegations of corruption involving President Jacob Zuma. The award-winning journalist has been receiving death threats since the announcement of the book, but says he's undeterred.
I approached this book as a journalist, not as an author. And I approached this book as a former investigative journalist. I knew that just people telling me stories, just people revealing things to me are not enough, that I had to see things on paper. Now, many of the things I reveal in the book are not on paper. You know, for example, when I revealed death squads in the police in 1989, God, it's a long time ago, but anyway, there was nothing on paper. It wasn't as though there was a document that had the headline establishing Vlakplaas or Vlakplaas, the death squad, or anything like that. I had to rely on sources.
40 minutes into a discussion about the book, the conversation had to be cut short due to a power cut.
We didn't think of a power outage, to be honest with you. I thought we'd got over those issues. And there's always been generators here, very powerful generators, and the generators should have taken care of any power outage. So right now I'm a bit flummoxed as to explain to you why we had no power.
With only 3 weeks in the market, the book has already sold more than 25,000 copies as more orders keep coming in.
Well, that's why we're asking you the question on the poll today. Of course, we want to find out from you whether or not the power outage at Jacques Poe's book, The President's Keepers, at the launch last night, was it a coincidence, an accident, or perhaps sabotage? Well, there you have the numbers. 227 votes are in. 76% of you are suggesting it's sabotage. We'll take a look at your comments a little bit later. Now, grieving families testified about the shocking conditions of unlicensed NGOs and the state in which they found their deceased family members. Hearings have been extended for another 4 weeks. The former Gauteng Health MEC and other implicated officials are due to take the stand in that period.
More tears and anguish.
The cops was there at the door, and she should still be alive.
Maria Petler's daughter Deborah died just 4 days after being sent to Takalani home in Soweto. She literally drowned in her own blood.
I was so shocked. I nearly died. When I see my daughter lying there, a face full of blood. It wasn't drops of blood from her nose, it was rivers. And she had one of her hands upwards.
Post-mortem results reveal pieces of plastic and paper in her stomach.
To me, it seems they locked her out. Even they exchanged their jobs. They forgot that there was a human being living in that shack. They never went to her. They never gave her food. She ate these brown papers of old files. I don't know where she got those plastic that she ate.
Nono Madita last saw her brother Charity Ratsoto at the Cullinan Rehabilitation and Care Center in June 2016. She only learned of his death 5 months later.
Charity's body was decomposed. He had no eyes. I don't know if it was the refrigerator, but his eyes were not there. He had injuries, there was blood and pus pouring out. And a big hole here. And he had a big hole on his chest.
They were forced to hire a private pathologist.
She must come and testify. We went here. We got her here. She must come and explain.
Mahlangu has since been suspended by a UK banking school. The state says it's still trying to locate Mahlangu in the UK. It's hoping she could testify before the end of the month. A subpoena has also been sent to the former mental health director, Dr. Mahabo Manamela, to appear on the 20th of this month. It's emerged that the former department head, Dr. Pani Selabano, is challenging his subpoena. He's launched a court application to have it set aside. Mangoba Mkudu, SABC News in Parktown, Johannesburg.
President Jacob Zuma is expected back in Parliament today. Now, he will be delivering his annual address in the National Council of Provinces. Last week, the President was in Parliament for a question and answer session which the EFF boycotted. The Democratic Alliance walked out of the House, and today will be the President's last engagement in Parliament for the year. He was in the National Assembly last week, Thursday, for his last oral reply session. He's now expected to have his annual address in the NCOP, and the theme for this year's address is Deepening Unity in Action for Inclusive Growth and Africa's Renewal, Reclaiming the Legacy of O.R. Tambo. The presidency says in memory of O.R. Tambo, the President will give an update on progress made in improving the quality of life of the people, especially the poor and the working class. MPs in the NCOP will also have an opportunity to debate the President's address. ANC Treasurer General and presidential hopeful Dr. Zweli Mkhize says that he doesn't have a dream team or a slate for the upcoming elective conference. Addressing the Cape Town Press Club yesterday, he was questioned about the state of the party as well as other current issues.
Dr. Zweli Mkhize said he would like to be given an opportunity to lead the ANC. But he says he doesn't have any preferred candidates whose names he wants on his slate.
We must always be ready to lead with those who have been elected to lead with us. And that is how I see the matter. And at a personal level, I can lead with anybody. I don't have a restriction of a particular type personality that when we have to lead, I can't handle. That's a personal statement.
Peppered with questions about corruption, Mkhize acknowledged that the scourge comes at the expense of all South Africans, especially the poor. He said the party has to demonstrate the ability to self-correct. This, he said, should be uppermost in the minds of delegates going into the conference. He was also asked about the possibility of a split in the ruling party.
There's been a lot of talk about that, and I think we want to handle this issue with the sensitivity that no one amongst us wishes to see an ANC split. We don't want to see a split. We also don't want the recklessness in the management of the issues of the African National Congress to ultimately give us an unintended consequence of the ANC splitting. We want to work hard and make every effort to avoid the African National Congress from ever splitting. It doesn't help this country. It didn't, we've had lessons in the past, and I think that those lessons remain very, very important.
Mkhize said he is committed to taking the country forward as leader of the party, but he did acknowledge that this December conference is going to be a very interesting one. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Cape Town.
ANC Gauteng chairperson Paul Mashatile says the ANC could lose its majority in 2019 elections. Mashatile says there are potential parties which the ANC could form a coalition government with. The Gauteng chairperson spoke exclusively to the SABC on how critical the outcome of the ANC's elective conference will be in December.
We think there are parties there that think more alike with us. They may be more radical, but we can work together.
Are you saying you're open to it because it is a possibility?
It is a possibility. I think gone are the days where parties will come out with 70% and those big percentages. It's going to be tight. So we must always be willing to work with those who can share your common goal.
It is familiar territory for the ANC in Gauteng particularly. The party lost 2 metros last year but managed to regain control of Ekurhuleni through a coalition. But another risk looms amid a highly divisive campaign. Another ANC breakaway.
That risk is there. In fact, we are worried about that. We don't want a situation where if a particular candidate wins, others decide we are leaving.
Mashatile says the ANC would need strong leadership to avert these lurking crises. A winning team, he says. Ironically, presidential candidate Cyril Ramaphosa listed Mashatile as a Treasurer General of his winning team. This to the surprise of the ANC Gauteng chairperson.
If the Deputy President approached me, I would have said to him, that's not the right way. You can't announce what may amount to slates.
Albeit, Mashatile says, of the 479 branches, more than 250 have completed their nomination meetings and Ramaphosa is enjoying the popularity to succeed President Jacob Zuma. Aldrin Simpier, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, with the ANC National Elective Conference now just weeks away, the majority of the branches in the Northern Cape have shown support for the CR17 campaign. Less than 10 branches are still to convene their general meetings with a few disputes cited. The ANC in the province says it is delighted that their branches followed through with their pronouncement to support the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa.
With just 5 weeks left before the ANC elective conference, the majority of Northern Cape branches have decided to follow what they call principle. So far, only 5 branches nominated Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma as the next ANC president, compared to 147 branches that are supporting Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa. Francis Bart, the biggest region in the province, has announced that at least 42 out of its 45 branches have also nominated Ramaphosa.
But where we are at the moment, there's no NDZ and CR17 Francis Bart. There might be NDZ in the street there. But in terms of outcomes of BGMs, and there is only one emphasis here, is Cyril Ramaphosa to become the president.
At its 8th elective conference, the province pronounced its support for the deputy president. However, some structures of the Youth and Women's League were following the mandate of their national leaders to support Dlamini Zuma. ANC Provincial Secretary Deshi Nganga says this reaffirms their commitment to following ANC principle.
We are confident that we've actually pronounced on the right name. The name that we've pronounced is Cyril Ramaphosa, but that name was actually informed by a bottom-up process. Branches actually at the provincial conference took a decision on which candidate should we actually support.
Despite the promising success of the CR17 campaign in the province, the leadership says it's aware that it's not out of the woods yet. It believes a true victory will come with Ramaphosa taking the position of leading the governing party. Neria Hlakutsa, SABC News, Kimberley.
A war of words has erupted in the KwaZulu-Natal ANC. The disputed provincial leadership says that 30 of the province's 806 branches have lodged disputes. But Cyril Ramaphosa's supporters maintain that 80 branches lodged complaints, citing mostly procedural irregularities.
KwaZulu-Natal was always going to be a highly contested province. 806 branches have to elect delegates and nominate their preferred leaders. 348 are yet to meet. Some branches allege manipulation of the voters' roll and procedures not being followed. Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma and Ramaphosa camps are disputing the exact number of complaints.
So, as I've indicated, we have got about 30 appeals. We received about 6 from head office yesterday. So those appeals will be processed together with the others that are coming from the province, from the branches.
The ANC court case appeal is due back in the Pietermaritzburg High Court at the end of the month. The PEC and the ANC's National Executive Committee are appealing the High Court ruling which nullified the results of the party's 2015 Provincial Elective Conference. I am Mhlongo, SABC News, Durban.
Let's now cross borders. Zimbabwe's sacked Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa says that he's fled the country but has vowed to return to lead the ZANU-PF party. Mnangagwa says that he was the foremost contender to succeed President Robert Mugabe, but he was expelled from the party on Monday. Now this appears to have cleared the way for Mugabe's wife, Grace, to take over as the president.
There have been reports of deepening divisions in ZANU-PF after Mugabe dismissed the vice president.
We have dealt with him, and I hope we can deal with others who were conspirators. Alongside him.
Much to the delight of the First Lady, all ZANU-PF provinces endorsed her as their candidate for vice president.
I love my president. I respect my president. I will help him to make this country prosper.
At the same rally, the Minister of State for Manicaland claimed that she had stopped Mnangagwa trying to cross the border. Meanwhile, expelled war veterans have also weighed in. They addressed the media in Johannesburg.
When we then said there's something wrong with this man and his wife and the team, the cabal of called the G40, which was running the country, we freed the Zimbabweans mentally. And now we are all on the same page. So we are all united as Zimbabweans, and we are coming across the board. They from the MDC, the others, they are coming from the UNC. I was with them.
Newly formed party Viva Zimbabwe and Organization of the Zimbabwe Exiles have also joined the fray.
They want to talk about land. Nobody in my generation talks about land. They want to talk about mining. Nobody in my generation has got any mine. They want to talk about bond notes. Nobody in my generation has got money. So it's a generational consensus that has to take place where all those born in Zimbabwe have to find a point of convergence where they say we must reimagine the country.
We believe that the conditions that are currently there are not right for a free and fair election to be held. We want all parties that within Zimbabwe and the diaspora to commit to a national transitional authority that will eventually give birth to reform.
President Mugabe is yet to formally announce who will succeed Mnangagwa. Takwana Ngatani, SABC News.
Meanwhile, Zimbabwe's opposition leader, Morgan Tsvangirai, has appealed to his supporters and ordinary Zimbabweans to exercise calm and allow democratic processes to unfold in line with the constitution. Now, he was responding to the axing in Zimbabwe of the country's vice president, Emmerson Mnangagwa. He also assured his supporters that he is recovering well from treatment in South Africa. SABC News spoke to Twangarai, and we began by asking him about his health.
Traumatic experience for the country. You know, it's one thing to dismiss your vice president. It's another thing when that decision affects the stability of the country. I think it's a security risk, and I find this whole decision totally not in sync with the imperatives that we are supposed to be confronted. So the decision that has been taken has far-reaching implications. Not only are you destabilizing the ruling party, you are also destabilizing the nation. However, I always plead that if the nation has to take the route towards unconstitutional change of government, then you may as well kiss the democratic project goodbye. And I hope that those who have the temptation to see opportunities for unconstitutional change are dissuaded from pursuing that.
Coming back home today, Newsroom focuses on the growing water crisis in our country. Now, there are many reasons attributed to the scarcity of water. The big one is the drought, said to be due to climate change, and that's why we're asking you this question. It's on your screen right now. We want to focus on that question. We want to ask you, how can we manage our water resources better? That's the question. I want your comments at SABC Newsroom on our Twitter handle, and we'll bring you those comments later. Now, the lack of good rainfall in the catchment areas have led to critically low dam levels in many parts of South Africa, including KwaZulu-Natal and the Western Cape. Water supplies are being rationed and restricted in the affected regions, including even Limpopo. Mgeni Water in Durban has announced that water restrictions will remain in force over the festive season. Now, that's the period where a lot of tourists are going to Durban. We've also heard that taps at Beaufort West in the Karoo could run dry in the next few months if the municipality is not able to secure up to 45 million rand from government for a new borehole project. The town's main water source, the Gamka Dam, is bone dry. The town is now relying on 29 boreholes and a wastewater reclamation plant for its supply. But there are also other huge concerns regarding these measures, as some say that the current boreholes are being depleted and they need another source of water. Now, is the situation as dire in the rest of the country as reports make it out to be? Now, we invited Dr. Anthony Turton in studio to talk to us about the water crisis. A very good morning to you, Doctor, and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Now, of course, you're a scientist. You specialize in water and water resources and water management. Talk to us about the crisis in the country. Is there a crisis regarding our water resources?
Yeah, the simple answer is yes. And in fact, we must get away from this thing about talking about a looming crisis or impending crisis. We are deep into the crisis. If you take the Western Cape at the moment, they are talking about day zero being in March. This is not enough time to even implement proper and well thought through projects. So we are deeply in a crisis. But having said that, we mustn't despair, because when we start falling into that black hole of despair, it's not good for any of us. We have to create a new paradigm. We have to enlighten our public about the fact that we actually have got to move to a new thing called the paradigm of abundance, away from the paradigm of scarcity. And once we do that, we need to start unpacking some very simple but fundamentally important principles. And one of these principles I'd like to share today, that we've got to get some ground traction on this, is a thing called the hydraulic density of population. Boring term, but what it means is the number of people that are sustained by a given unit of water over time. And the word sustained is not just about drinking water, it's about water for the economy, water for food, water for agriculture, water for all of those other things. So, you know, I'll gladly walk this road with you.
Please walk that road for me, because it's very concerning when we look at, for instance, at the Western Cape, where there's a serious problem. But take us through your process.
Well, see, the reality is that we've come through a century of dam building. And this has all been based on the paradigm of scarcity, where the paradigm of scarcity says we don't have enough, therefore we're going to capture whatever we have. So we've done that, and we've done it very successfully. Now our population growth as a global phenomena, this is not a South African phenomenon, it's a global phenomena. The global population growth is simply outstripping its water supply. But the good news is that water is not a stock. It is a flux. Now, that's a technical term. A stock is something like a bottle of water, 750 mils, and when you drink it, you throw the bottle away. It's empty.
Yes.
In reality, water is a flux. It moves in time and space. It's an infinitely renewable water resource. The water you use when you cleaned your teeth this morning, and I'm sure you did, went through a dinosaur's kidney 65 million years ago. That's the reality of it.
Yes.
So in other words, what we need to do, and this is the message of hope, we need to create an enabling environment, which is a policy-related environment that attracts technology and capital into the space. Because in reality, we have an abundance of technology, and we actually have a surplus of capital, all willing to go into that space. It's blocked at the moment because there's no enabling environment.
But some are suggesting, Doctor, that the water shortage is simply not a result of just a drought that we've seen, but it's an induced one. Why is that?
Well, it's an induced scarcity. That's a lovely term you've raised. That's something else we must educate the public about. When we talk about water, it's a very complex thing, but we talk about water generally in terms of volume. How much do we have? Where is it? When's it going to run out? But there's another very important part of water, and what is the quality of the water? So at the moment, we produce 5 billion litres a day of sewage. 5 billion litres a day of sewage, okay? That all ends up in our drinking water resources, in our bulk water treatment, the feedstock for the bulk water treatment plants. So we are polluting the little bit that we have left. So we have to change our culture, in this culture of abundance. We have to also underpin it by the culture of stewardship and the culture of respect. So I would say that one of our biggest low-hanging fruits right now is the revitalization of the 800 or so wastewater treatment plants, the majority of which are severely dysfunctional at the moment.
Now, talking about those, now Namibia, since the 1960s, has been using wastewater treatment plants in order to turn that into potable and drinkable water. Why can't we do the same?
Well, we can. The team that developed that was the CSIR. And not one person in that team is still in South Africa. They've all been scattered to the 4 corners of the earth, and we've lost that technical capacity. Now, why can't we reclaim that? So technically, it's entirely feasible. I was at a plant not so long ago in Perth, Western Australia, that has exactly the same problem. They're recovering 120 million litres of water per day from sewage, treating it to the highest standard, and they're putting it in the ground in what's known as aquifer storage and recovery. This is the solution for the Western Cape in particular, but for other parts of the country as well.
Is that an expensive solution?
Well, expense is a relative thing. If you are dying in the desert, you will pay a large amount of money for your first litre of water. You'll pay less for the second litre, and therein is another lesson. Water, the value of money or the cost of water is extremely elastic.
There's also another solution that they propose in Western Cape is desalinization. Is that a solution? Because they say it's very expensive.
Well, that's another very interesting conversation we have to have. And just yesterday, Trevor Bowles, a very competent engineer from the Department of Water Affairs, made a statement in Parliament that we are 38 billion cubic meters scarce, 38 BCM scarce. We did projections when I was still at the CSR in 2007 that we would be about 25 billion cubic meters scarce. So we have to make up that scarcity. Now, where do we get it from? We get it from recycling water. Part of the recycling process, in fact, is desalination. Part of the desalination process is acid mine drainage, that kind of thing. So we get back to the paradigm of abundance. How do we create an enabling environment for technology and capital, and how do we bring a message of hope for a better future for everyone?
Desalination, is that only from seawater, or is it desalination of sewage plants as well?
It's almost the identical technology. It's a great question. It's identical technology. So let me just quickly unpack that. In this new paradigm of abundance we talk about, instead of storing water in dams where under conditions of climate change and elevated air temperatures, you lose more to evaporation. Instead of doing that, you store water underground in aquifers. So instead of depleting your aquifers, as happening in Beaufort West, as will happen in Cape Town, instead of depleting them, you recharge them with your surplus flow from your desalination plants. So instead of designing a desalination plant to take your base flow for a city, when the drought breaks, you've now got too much water, so your desalination plant's a white elephant. You put in a smaller desalination plant and you use it during your wet season to recharge your aquifer, and you use your aquifer as a bank balance that you can draw down and you can replace when times of abundance come again.
Is this the type of technology and proposals that government are aware of?
Government is starting to become aware, and this is encouraging, this is good news. Certainly the Western Cape government right now is absolutely aware of this, and I'm encouraged by the fact that national government is also becoming aware of this. So I don't want to spend any energy on pointing fingers of blame. That's going to get us nowhere. We have to focus right now on restoring hope, restoring investor confidence. Investor confidence. We don't want to see additional capital flight from the country at the moment. We need to attract that capital and that technology into the space, and that can be done through this paradigm of abundance.
Well, talking about government, we have the spokesperson of the Department of Water and Sanitation on the line in our Pretoria studios, Mr. Sputnik Ratau. Very good morning to you, Sputnik, and welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Elvis, and thanks for your time.
Now, the focus this morning, as you are aware, is that we're focusing on the water, or the looming crisis. Dr. Turton indicated it's not a looming crisis. We're in that crisis already. Do you agree with that concept?
Well, I guess it's a question of how you phrase it. But in the ultimate, because we are in a situation where, if you look at the situation in the Western Cape, we are in a dire situation, and obviously that implies that the situation is not tenable, is not what you would be looking for. But we have been experiencing the drought for the last couple of years that has put a strain on water availability for the country. So we've had that difficulty in terms of water availability for the last few years. We are seeing a bit of a recovery at the moment, but it is obviously not sufficient at the moment for us to start being comfortable.
Now, earlier when we spoke, it was indicated that the crisis that we're currently facing is self-induced. Your comment to that, and is that part government's fault?
Well, we have to understand that, and I think the good doctor there would also agree that drought comes because of different issues that have influenced it, hydrological and whatever it may be. And at the moment, one of the things that has taught us, I think, as a country, and what has come out very well for the country come out of this drought, is that there is a new appreciation for what the impact of having water or not having water is like on the country. And for us as a department, and basically as government and the water sector all together, it is a good thing for us, probably up to a certain point, to have gone through the difficulties that we have gone through, so that when we talk about how people, or as a nation, we should appreciate the fact that we are a water scarce country, we are continuing to be growing drier from the west, because of climate change and other issues, and all of the things that we need to do, especially the issue of looking at things like your reuse, like Dr. Turton has said, the issue of whether we can be able to manage our water conservation and water demand going forward. Those are the things that in the ultimate have got to talk to the ultimate outcome of a behavioral change in the manner in which South Africans look at water, but also how they respond to the issues of water.
Talking about those solutions, we've talked about Namibia, who have successfully implemented wastewater plants, and they've retreated that water, and they made it potable and drinkable. And I asked the question earlier to Dr. Turton whether or not we can do it here. Your response to that, and is that a possibility that government is looking at?
Look, at the moment we are looking at all possibilities of recharge to our systems, and the issue of reuse and recycling is quite one of the big issues that we are looking at, and that is why, as Dr. Turton has correctly said, we have put up, you know, the acid mine drainage treatment plants in the western and the eastern basin that are looking at treating the water that comes out of our mine voids, in order for, especially the one in the eastern basin, for us to be able to recharge, especially our integrated Vaal River system, that might be able to assist us in either looking at how, together with the water that we get from the Lesotho Highlands Lesotho Highlands water project, we can be able to continue being assured of water supply, especially for Gauteng. But also to go back to the issue of the Western Cape, there is a lot of work that we are doing together with the province, together with the municipalities, to look at how we can be able to make sure that we do not reach what is now popularly named day zero. And obviously, and the minister made the point on Monday when she was referring during the media briefing that is going to look at water infrastructure investment summit that is coming up on the 30th of November, particularly to say how do we even attract more funding towards the issue of water and what we can be able to do inside the water sector, particularly because we've got to look at the reality that water and sanitation issues cannot all of them be taken care of by the fiscus with all the competing interests for funding coming out of the fiscus.
Dr. Turton, earlier when I introduced the story, Beaufort West in the Karoo is also facing a crisis. They could run dry in a couple of months if they don't get 45 million rand for government for extra boreholes. Is that solution a viable one in the long run?
Well, when you're in the dire straits, you look at whatever you can find. And frankly, 45 million rand is not a huge amount of capital. That can be raised in a relatively short space of time. So that's not the issue. But if I can just add on to this conversation now, this whole idea of wastewater reuse, we are already doing it in South Africa. And for some reason, we don't want to talk about it. And so I want to open that can of worms right now. We are doing it in Durban South. Where the Durban South wastewater treatment work, I was present when Ronnie Cashells, the newly appointed Minister of Water Affairs, took his first drink of that water, and I was present when the Kara Aspal actually launched the program. So here we have a tremendously successful story where an entire sewage works that used to discharge sewage offshore and making people angry because it comes back in the sea. That water was recovered and sent to Natref, the oil refinery, and to a paper and pulp mill. So we're doing it. In Beaufort West, they're already doing it. In the Potsdam wastewater treatment works in the Western Cape, they're already doing it. So this is what I call another technical word that we must talk more about, a dual stream reticulation economy, where water of different quality and different price is used for different purposes in different parts of the economy. So this dual stream reticulation economy, in fact, is part of the economic revitalization of this country, because if what Trevor Balzer said is correct, and I've got no reason to doubt it, 38 billion cubic meters is our shortfall. That is the size of the recycling market. I projected 25, and that's what we're already raising capital on. So 38 is bigger than 25. There's a bigger market than we thought. Let's create the enabling environment. Let's unlock this, turn this crisis around into this opportunity to create employment, to revitalize the economy, and more importantly, my pet passion, to deepen the democracy, to regain the pride that we had when we became a democracy 21 years ago.
That's a fantastic concept that you just mentioned there to us, because when we talk about wastewater, Mr. Ratau, we also see that currently in South Africa, we still use fresh potable drinking water to flush our bathrooms and our toilets. Shouldn't that be maybe something that we should re-look at?
Yes, that is something that we are looking at, and that is something that the Water Research Commission is working very strongly towards. And I think if you go back to the messaging, around World Water Month this year and last year, one of the tenets of Minister Mokonyani's message has been that we need to bring in the concept into the minds of our people that sanitation and sanitation services is not all about flushing, because the reality is that it is not all technologies that require water for flushing that can also be able to provide a better life for the people of this country. So that those technological advances have got to be brought into or rather closer to people. They've got to be brought closer in terms of awareness, and we've got to all learn to understand that it is not all about just one-track mindedness, but there are a variety of options that are open to us. And obviously, technology moves all the time, and the markets are also indicating that we can be able to look at different ways of achieving exactly the same outcome.
In conclusion, Mr. Ratau, what are some of the challenges that the Department of Water Affairs face in making sure and to address this water situation in South Africa?
Well, I guess the first thing is the reality that South Africa is one of the driest countries in the world. We're receiving less than world average, and that's a reality. The second thing is that the issue of infrastructure, we still need to develop new infrastructure, but we also need to attend to infrastructure that is in place, that is aging, or that is not properly operated and maintained. And so there needs to be that close cooperation between departments and as well as between the three spheres of government to make sure that we share expertise, we are able to support one another, and so that we can be able to also have a common message that goes out to our people, because it doesn't help for one person to say we need to reuse and recycle, and somebody else says for as long as I can pay a fine of 10,000-20,000 rand, I can go on with what I have to do. We have to have a common messaging and a common understanding of where we're coming from. But it is also important to cooperate, not just amongst ourselves as government, but also with the private sector, because most of the new technologies are actually sitting in the private sector, and expertise is also sitting there in the private sector. And in order for us to be able to attract sufficient funding as well, we need to go to work together with the private sector.
Mr. Ratau, thank you so much for your time and joining us in our Pretoria studios. That was the National Spokesperson for the Department of Water and Sanitation Affairs in our Pretoria studios. Coming back to you, Dr. Turton, in closing, how should we manage our resources, the limited resources that we have, even better?
Well, I think the important thing is that we must never let a good crisis go to waste. At the moment, we are deep in a crisis. And the one thing that I've learned about South Africa, I've got a few grey hairs and I've been around the block a little bit, is that we actually come to our best when we're on the edge of the abyss and we look down into that dark place we don't want to fall into. So now's our moment. We must change the language. We must stop being hostile towards capital. Capital is necessary. Capital is vital. And of course, we have to create that enabling environment. So actually, I think there's a message of hope.
I know I said it's the last question, but there was, and we talked about the self-induced crisis that we find ourselves in. But did government have enough time to avert this crisis?
Government has known about this since 2002, but let's not go down that rabbit hole, because we're just going to get into the finger pointing and deflection of blame. So we've known about it for a long time. The water sector professionals have all known about this. The engineering and science and technology people have all known about it. It's gone wrong somewhere along the way. Let's pick up the pieces and move forward.
Dr. Turton, I thank you so much for joining us here in studio. That was Dr. Anthony Turton. He's a water expert and a scientist, of course, specializing in water resource management. What do you make of all of that? And that's why I'm asking you this question. It's on the poll today. In fact, our question of the day: how do we manage our water resources better? That's the question. Let's take a look at what you are telling me at SABC Newsroom on the Twitter handle. Okay, in fact, it seems like we're going to do the poll as well. Let's take a look at the poll. And the poll focused on Jacques Pauw's book. Remember what happened last night? There was darkness at Jacques Pauw's book, The President's Keepers, the launch thereof. So far, we're asking you that question: is it coincidence, an accident, or sabotage? Well, 74%. That has come down from 76% earlier. 74% of you are suggesting that it is sabotage. 8% says, oh, it was just an accident. And 18% says it must be a coincidence. 303 votes in. Now, so far you are telling me from Percy Prince, he says, nothing is a coincidence when it comes to Zuma anymore, especially any attempt to expose him will be sabotage. Wow, there you have it. Atini says, absolutely sabotage. Michael the Big M says, we honestly don't know what forces were responsible. It could be sabotage. Maybe it was staged so that Jacques Pauw can look like a victim, but he should know that in every action there's a reaction. If you want to run with the big dogs, you've got to learn to pee in the tall grass. Well, there you have it. Those are some of your comments. It's not the views of the SABC, it's your comments, but you can keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. Now, our picture of the day comes from Aislinn Lang. It says, no one thinks it's a coincidence that the power has gone out during a launch of Jacques Pauw's President's Keepers in Hyde Park Mall tonight. Well, that was last night. Look at the darkness. But I tell you what happened afterwards? They still sold books. People still got his autograph, even in the darkness. The light will shine at the end of the day, my grandmother would say. Our comment of the day comes from Not Barry Rowe. Says, how did Mduduzi Manana become a member of parliament and member of the executive while having a criminal record? Hashtag Mduduzi Manana. Question mark there. On to the courts now. We start off in Cape Town. A law enforcement officer will appear in court for being in possession of drugs worth more than 2 million rand. The Hawks made the arrest yesterday after receiving a tip-off. And now to the Makuya periodical court outside Yondor in Limpopo. The state is expected to wrap closing arguments in the bail application of 5 men suspected of being involved in the harvesting of human body parts. 2 traditional leaders are among the suspects. Those are some of your cases in court. We'll keep you updated on the developments on those cases. So stay tuned here on Channel 404. But you don't want to miss it. It's getting hot in here. Let's find out from the weatherman if that is really the case. Ozzy is up next.
Thanks very much and warm welcome. Well, let's take a look at your weather. On our satellite image, we're still seeing lots of moisture being transported towards the interior of South Africa. We are expecting a lot of development for today that will result to 30% chance of thunder showers, very isolated over the interior of SADC going to South Africa. Over the northern parts, we are expecting 30% chance of thunder showers going along the coastal regions, 30% chance of those showers expected for today. 60% chance of thunder showers over the interior of KwaZulu-Natal, the northeastern parts of Free State, as far southern parts of Mpumalanga and the whole of Lesotho for today. Remember to collect rainwater and that you can use in your house and also in your pools. Partly cloudy skies for tomorrow with 30 to 60% chance of thunder showers expected over the northern parts of South Africa, going to the interior of Zimbabwe. Otherwise, partly cloudy and very isolated thunder showers over most parts of SADC, but going to the interior of DRC, northern parts of Angola, 30 to 60% chance of thunder showers expected. Today we do have a warning of high fire danger over the interior of Northern Cape, Northwest and Free State. Please do take note of that. Do not cause any unnecessary fires. Severe thunderstorms expected over the northeastern parts of Free State for today. So please, again, keep your cars safe. And a hailstorm is one of the possibilities, and strong winds. A maximum of 30 expected in Pretoria with 30% chance of thunder showers going to Limpopo. In Polokwane, maximum of 27, 23 from Bombela, Durban sitting at 21, and go to the southern parts. Sutherland, a maximum of 24 with afternoon thunder showers. We were expecting 30% chance of showers over Cape Town for today, mostly in the morning, going to the afternoon as well. And remember, again, please do collect lots of rainwater and use it in your houses and mostly in the gardens. In Botswana, we're still expecting 30% chance of showers going to Zimbabwe and Mozambique as well. Maputo at a maximum of 26. Sunny along the coastal regions of Namibia. Windhoek at 32. Going to Madagascar, we're still expecting partly cloudy skies, very isolated showers. Moroni at a maximum of 32, just partly cloudy. But over Madagascar, very isolated. Over the interior of DRC, 60% chance of thunder showers. Nairobi at a maximum of 24, 29 for Luanda. Libreville sitting at 29 as well. Over the Sahara Desert, still clear skies, but Morocco and the northern parts of Algeria will see 30% chance of showers. Over the southern parts, 30 again for today and tomorrow. And more areas covered with 30% chance of showers over Algeria, going to the whole of Tunisia for tomorrow. Cairo at a maximum of 27, 33 for Agadez. If you will be in Addis Ababa, a maximum of 23 is forecast, and 38 for Khartoum. Riyadh sitting at a maximum of 31, partly cloudy skies to mostly cloudy skies. And along the coastal regions in Nigeria, maximum of 30. Of moving to the interior, just partly cloudy skies. No much rain can be expected for today. Dakar, partly cloudy. That is all. Now you know.
Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma is a South African politician and anti-apartheid activist. She obtained her medical doctorate at the University of Bristol. She was part of the Gender Advisory Committee of CODESA, former Minister of Health, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Home Affairs, and during her time at Home Affairs delivered incredible results. The ministry was awarded for service excellence and rated as employer of choice for 2010 to 2011. The first woman in 50 years to chair the African Union Commission, her term ended this year, 2017.
I'm just very grateful to all the member states for having entrusted me with this responsibility of their organization.
As chairperson, she changed the entire environment in Addis Ababa and in Africa. She brought a degree of professionalism to the AU bureaucracy. Nkosazana initiated a flagship policy, the Agenda 2063, which sets out what Africa is going to look like in half a century from now.
Are we ready for the revolution? Are we ready to change everything that must be changed? I'm asking because for us to change everything that must be changed, we must have cadres. We must be united. We must unite society behind that program. So I won't deal with everything that's here, but it also says it's full equality and freedom.
We are ready.
Shooting a campaign. We're telling genuine stories from real people that have been affected by the SABC. It's also interesting to get the backstory in terms of their dreams to be on screen and eventually getting the pleasure to do that, and understanding that they're communicating on a platform that speaks to millions of people. It speaks to how the SABC can fulfill its mandate.
The SABC represents the opportunity for so many young South Africans, for old South Africans, to be able to look at the world that they may not experience any other way.
People should continue to pay their TV license because it allows the SABC to bring quality programming.
The TV license is really part of the lifeblood of the channel and the corporation.
When you're listening to your favorite jams, you're listening to your favorite radio DJ, you must know that you made it possible by paying your TV license.
It's such a holistic process that goes into TV licenses. It's not only one part where we say South Africans have to pay for TV licenses. You pay a TV license because you get so much value out of it, and that's the content that you get every single day on the SABC platforms.
I have been in the film industry now for 51 years. I am quite satisfied with the evolution of television now, that you have got a lot of actors and you have got a lot of crew members, which will also play part of paying our licenses, because I think it's proper.
The Kalahari Transportier Park is a large wildlife preserve and conservation area in southern Africa. Kalahari means place of thirst. The total area is 38,000 square kilometers. Approximately 3/4 of the park lie in Botswana and 1/4 in South Africa. South Africa embraced the concept of transportiers linking ecological reserves across national borders. On the 12th of May 2000, President Festus Mogae of Botswana and Thabo Mbeki of South Africa formally launched South Africa's first peace park. It has 200 species of birds, including vultures, mammalians such as black Kalahari lions, and large herds of herbivores, namely elands, springboks, blue wildebeest, and more.
100 hours Central Africa time here on the newsroom. I'm Elvis Preston.
Good morning, I'm Kendo Makamat.
Jumbo Africa. Today we focus on South Africa. It's a semi-arid, water-stressed country, and we face major water problems. You heard from some of the experts there a little bit earlier, Kendall.
Yeah, very interesting conversations we're having around this very important situation that we're facing in South Africa. I want to find out from you, how do you think we can manage our water resources better?
That's the question. Let us know on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom. This one from Tsepo says, why are we still using clean drinking water to flush our toilets instead of exploring other technologies? That was the question we posed, Tsepo. You must have listened to the conversation.
Absolutely. Grey water system is definitely the way to go. As a first off, Leslie Fella says, let's save water. Every single drop counts.
Well, there you have it. Keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue, but we're also doing a poll today. We're focusing on that poll because last night the State Security Agency has sent yet another cease and desist letter. In fact, that was yesterday for the book, The President's Keepers, to withdraw that book from the bookshelves. And that's why we're looking into this poll.
Absolutely, because last night at Jacques Pauw's launch of the book in Hyde Park, there was a power outage. Of course, the book that we're talking about is The President's Keeper. Now, I want to find out from you, was it A, coincidence that this happened? Or B, an accident? Or C, sabotage?
Well, so far, 318 votes. 74% of you are suggesting it's sabotage. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's sabotage, they say. 8% are saying it's an accident. 18% says it must be coincidence.
Well, let's see what else is being said about this. Brigo Brick says, if we kill the media and book writers, the corruption will grow. Support media, reckons Brigo Brick.
Support! Tino Franco says it was a total sabotage. Hashtag Eskom confirmed that they are not the supplier of electricity in Hyde Park. Therefore, City Power has the questions to answer. Well, there you have it.
One also wants to find out about the backup generators as well, though.
Two of them.
They didn't kick in either.
Not just one, two. Now, I tell you, you can make of that what you want. By the way, BLF leader also tweeted something a little earlier before the blackout.
Oh, yes.
Well, we don't want to go into that right now.
Well, let's not.
But
let's
we
talk
have
about
also a sports question, and of course we're focusing on Itumeleng Khune. He's going to be Superman with a mask on.
Well, yeah, let's see if he passes his fitness test. So he's still got to go through the fitness test, but yes, the crack and the fracture in his cheekbone or on his face, he's going to wear a mask if he does play. But I want to find out from you, with everything else said and done, has Itumeleng Khune's injury shown up South Africa's lack of depth in the goalkeeping department?
And even if he plays, will he not be targeted by the other players because he knows that he's got a fracture?
He's carrying an injury.
Kagiso says, let's not reduce it to the issue of depth. Khune is one of a kind. He's a talented player who must be celebrated. He is a rare breed, but even if he's injured, Kagiso?
No, we're talking about a football match. Celebrate him after we win the match. Michael Bigham's told us, says, no, he's just a favorite. Oh, and if Khune is not 100% fit, why doesn't he stay at home, honestly? Because he's just going to aggravate his injury, and the damage was done when we lost back-to-back Cape Verde thanks to Baxter and his super sport players. Because it sounds as if Khune is a messiah now, of note. Wow. Yes, that's
South Africans has got no chill, hey?
No chill whatsoever.
But you can keep them coming. We'll read those as we continue. But right now it's time to take a look at your news headlines. Public Enterprise Minister Ben Martins denies allegations that he attended a tea party with Ajay Gupta, Salim Essa and Duduzane Zuma. A second gag order by the State Security Agency against Jacques Pauw's book, The President's Keepers, was issued yesterday. And the Isidimeni hearings extended as families continue with testimonies over the loss of their loved ones. Now, those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate whether the golf is en route.
Absolutely, absolutely in full swing, Elvis. Good morning to you. Good morning to everybody at home. The Nedbank Golf Challenge is here, ladies and gentlemen. Teed off at 9 o'clock this morning. And Dylan Fratelli teed off a little earlier. And is fresh off a rousing second place finish at the Turkish Airlines Open. We've had a whole host of others since then. It's been an hour. Let's take a quick look to see what's happening. 5 seconds. I'm going to ask of our director.
It's a lot harder. the greens as well as anyone, Brandon. First spot we saw up here was Graham Starr when he hit it about 2 feet, maybe more, left to right, and then at the end it turned right to left. Then we saw someone else, but I think it was just Loughton, and it came all the way from right to left down the green. So must be a certain area up there where it just changes from left to right to left. So he's going left to right. Just watch as it comes to the end, it'll just turn back a little bit left.
He's certainly looking for it to come from the right. Come on then, baby. It was a great effort. Amazingly winless so far this year.
Just 1 day away from the crucial back-to-back World Cup qualifying tie against Senegal, and the focus is still on Itumeleng Khun's fitness to take his place between the sticks.
It's impossible to stay because his vision is not impaired greatly, but we don't know how the mask is going to affect that again, and we don't know how he's going to feel when he's banging himself on the ground.
The Ram Slam T20 rolls into action tomorrow, and with Otis Gibson, South Africa's new coach, just starting his tenure, everyone will be looking to impress.
You go and do well against the sides in this competition, and you could easily find yourself in a squad somewhere like that, and I think that's very exciting.
All this in more detail we'll have for you at about 10:40. Just stay with Elvis as he's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this morning here at this hour. Public Enterprise Minister Ben Martins has denied allegations that he attended a high tea party in Johannesburg with Susan Daniels, Ajay Gupta, Salim Essa and Dudazani Zuma. Those allegations were contained in Daniels' testimony as the Parliamentary into Eskom continued yesterday. Martin says that he, Daniels, met several times in her capacity as Eskom's company secretary, together with the then chairperson of Eskom, Dr. Ben Ngubane, the Department of Public Enterprises Director General Richard Seleka, and the Minister Lynn Brown, that met in Cape Town in Tshwane to discuss the Brian Molefe matter. The Deputy Minister will further give clarity on the allegations when he briefs the media this morning. We'll bring you up to date on that a little bit later live.
As a result of that newspaper report, got called to a meeting with Minister Lynn Brown.
Well, we'll go there live a little bit later. Now, the State Security Agency has sent yet another cease and desist letter to get the book The President's Keepers withdrawn from the bookshelves. This time, the letter was sent to its title editor, Russell Martin. The author, Jacques Poe, revealed this during the official launch of his book in Johannesburg yesterday. However, the launch had to be abandoned due to a power failure.
They gathered in their hundreds to hear what motivated Jacques Poe's book. It contains explosive new allegations of corruption involving President Jacob Zuma. The award-winning journalist has been receiving death threats since the announcement of the book, but says he's undeterred.
I approached this book as a journalist, not as an author. And I approached this book as a former investigative journalist. I knew that just people telling me stories, just people revealing things to me are not enough. That I had to see things on paper. Now, many of the things I reveal in the book are not on paper. You know, for example, when I revealed death squads in the police in 1989, God, it's a long time ago, but anyway, there was nothing on paper. It wasn't as though there was a document that had the headline, establishing Vlakplaas or Vlakplaas, the death squad or anything like that. I had to rely on sources.
40 minutes into a discussion about the book, the conversation had to be cut short due to a power cut.
We didn't think of a power outage, to be honest with you. I thought we'd got over those issues. And there's always been generators here, very powerful generators. And the generators should have taken care of any power outage. So right now I'm a bit flummoxed as to explain to you why we had no power.
With only 3 weeks in the market, the book has already sold more than 25,000 copies as more orders keep coming in.
And that is exactly the reason why we're asking you this particular question on our poll today. We want to find out from you. There was a book launch last night at Hyde Park. They have two generators available at all time. So we're asking you, there was this power outage at Jacques Pauw's book, the launch of the book. And we want to know, is it coincidence, an accident, or sabotage? Well, so far, 328 of you have voted, and 74% of you are saying it is sabotage. 9% it's an accident, 17% it's a coincidence. We'll come back to some of your comments with that. Meanwhile, grieving families testified about the shocking conditions of the unlicensed NGOs and the state in which they found their deceased family members. Hearings have been extended for another 4 weeks. The former Gauteng Health MEC and other implicated officials are due to take the stand in that period.
More tears and anguish.
The cops was there at the door. She should still be alive.
Maria Petler's daughter Deborah died just 4 days after being sent to Takalani home in Soweto. She literally drowned in her own blood.
I was so shocked. I nearly died. When I see my daughter lying there, a face full of blood. It wasn't drops of blood from her nose. It was rivers. And she had one of her hands upwards.
Post-mortem results reveal pieces of plastic and paper in her stomach.
To me, it seems they locked her out. Even they changed their jobs. They forgot that there was a human being living in that shack. They never went to her. They never gave her food. She ate these brown papers of old files. I don't know where she got those plastic that she ate.
Nono Madita last saw her brother Charity Ratsoto at the Cullinan Rehabilitation and Care Center in June 2016. She only learned of his death 5 months later.
Charity's body was decomposed. He had no eyes. I don't know if it was the refrigerator, but his eyes were not there. He had injuries, there was blood and pus pouring out. And a big hole here. And he had a big hole on his chest.
They were forced to hire a private pathologist.
She must come and testify. We want her here because she must come and explain.
Mahlangu has since been suspended by a UK banking school. The state says it's still trying to locate Mahlangu in the UK. It's hoping she could testify before the end of the month. A subpoena has also been sent to the former mental health director, Dr. Mahabo Manamela, to appear on the 20th of this month. It's emerged that the former department head, Dr. Pani Selabano, is challenging his subpoena. He's launched a court application to have it set aside. Mangoba Mkudu, SABC News in Parktown, Johannesburg.
Jacob Zuma is expected back in Parliament today. He will be delivering his annual address to the National Council of Provinces. Last week, the President was in Parliament for a question and answer session which the EFF boycotted. The Democratic Alliance walked out of the House. Today will be the President's last engagement in Parliament for this year. He was in the National Assembly last week, Thursday, for his last oral reply session. He's now expected to have his annual address in the NCOP today. The theme for this year's address is Deepening Unity in Action for Inclusive Growth and Africa's Renewal, Reclaiming the Legacy of O.R. Tambo. The presidency says in memory of O.R. Tambo, the President will give an update on progress made in improving the quality of life of the people, especially the poor and the working proletariat. MPs in the NCOP will also have an opportunity to debate the President's address. Now, fears are growing over a new deadly drug that has hit the streets of Durban. The drug, known as flakka or gravel, can cause hyperstimulation, aggression, hallucinations, and according to some, even lead to cannibalistic tendencies. Last week, a man was arrested for allegedly selling this deadly drug.
The drug is called Flocka, a drug that can turn its users into zombies and can also lead them to commit suicide. Experts say the drug can turn people into cannibals. Its origins are traced to Australia and America.
We're worried because of its great negative impact on the individual and people around him as well. It's in a form of crystal, like rough salt. So be wary about that. Some dealers are selling it off as cocaine, but it's really flocka, and the effects are totally different. The fact that it is launched now, it's November. Exams are going to be over next week or so. Parties are going to start. And I'm just urging all people who want to party, avoid this one.
Now it's made its way to the streets of Durban, especially in Wentworth, Pinetown and Chatsworth. An anti-drug forum in Chatsworth says it's already admitted 4 cases in hospital. The forum fears the drug could spread faster, especially during the festive season. A 32-year-old Nigerian has been arrested for allegedly selling the drug. He's appeared in court and remains in custody. Parents are warned to monitor their children closely as the drug could have dire consequences. Lungisi Kumalo, SABC News, Durban.
Going back to our theme for the day, looking at the water crisis in South Africa, Cape Town's water supply is expected to run dry before March 2018. One of South Africa's biggest cities, Cape Town, is said to be gripped by a rising panic. In the near future, residents face the possibility of having to queue for water, carefully rationed out by local authorities under the watchful eye of the army. The city's water crisis had worsened. Despite recent rains in the mother city, dam levels have dropped 0.7 percentage points to 37.8% from 37.8 to 27.8%, of which is usable. Now, collective use remains far above the target of 500 million litres per day, under level 5 restrictions at 602 million litres per day. A year ago, Cape Town residents were using around 1.1 billion litres a day. And despite the drastic drop in consumption, the city said only 50% of the city's residents are actively trying to save water and cut the usage. The mayor of the city of Cape Town, Patricia de Lille, now joins us from our Cape Town Sea Point studios to give us the latest on the water crisis in the Cape. A very good morning to you, ma'am, and welcome.
Good morning, Elvis.
Can you give us an update? What is the latest regarding the water situation in Cape Town and surrounding areas?
The latest is, as you've stated, we have got 27.8% usable water in our dams, but we have been running a two-pronged strategy, and the one is to drive down demand, and I want to thank all Cape Townians and our visitors for helping us to save water. On the other hand, we've got an augmentation plan that we are rolling out at the moment, and we really want to augment our water scheme with non-surface water, because we can no longer rely just on rain to fill up our dams. So where we are now is that just yesterday I went to show Cape Townians that 2 million litres of extra water which will come from the springs under Table Mountain will be sterilized and put into our water reticulation system in our reservoirs. We've got a plant in Atlantis, an aquifer, that's also pumping about 10 million litres of water per day. So we're really trying our utmost best to bring additional water on board to avoid day zero.
Mm-hmm. Now, despite urging the residents to save water, now these are some of the things that you're putting in place, but we also understand that you have a desalination plant also going, which is very expensive. Thoughts on that?
Yes. Well, first of all, we are looking at 3 sources of augmentation. One of it is desalination, and we will be bringing on board 8 different desalination plants, land-based, around the coast of the city of Cape Town. Last week, we approved tenders for 2 of those that will go to Monmabisi Beach and also to Strandfontein. And we also are going to put up one at the waterfront, who donated the land to us, and by February 2018, we will see water come on from there. So desalination is just one part of it. And yes, it is expensive. Then we also augment our water first by underground water. All the aquifers that we have, we tap into that water to sterilize it, also to be used. And then, of course, the last one is how do we reuse treated water, grey water. And so it's not just one size fits all. We are trying 3 methodologies to bring extra water to the city of Cape Town. And I'm very confident. And I want to assure Cape Townians and the rest of South Africa that we certainly will not allow a well-run city to run out of water. We are pulling out all the stops. We've got experts coming in from all over the world helping us. We have employed extra staff. We put in extra money. So I just want to create that hope that Cape Townians must know that although people are fearing a lot that we might get to that day, but we are very hopeful that we will not get to that day.
But there are dissident voices, Mayor, that suggest that the city of Cape Town has not done enough and have not done enough in order to curb this particular situation and the water crisis in Cape Town and surrounding areas. Your response to that?
Well, you will always have people with different opinions, and they're certainly entitled to their opinions, but they're not entitled to their own facts. The fact is that we are bringing on extra water, that Cape Townians are working together, the hospitality sector, all the sectors are working together to save water. We will be going next week also to the private sector and ask them what are they doing. We know many of them are doing a lot of good things. And, you know, with the help of Team Cape Town, with the help of every sector in the city of Cape Town, we will be able to push back that day zero. And we've done so already. At the time when we calculated day zero, Cape Townians were using 700 million litres of water per day. Today, and that's why we calculated that day zero will be at the end of March. Currently, Cape Townians are using less than 600 million litres of water per day, meaning that we've pushed day zero further. If we can get to 500 million litres of water, we will even push day zero further. And that will allow the city to incrementally increase our water resources so that we don't run out of water.
So why are they then accusing you as the city of bad water management as well as planning, taking into account that you were warned timeously many years prior to the crisis?
Well, first of all, we found that about 55,000 water users in the city of Cape Town certainly did not respond to the request to reduce water. We had no option then, after sending warning letters, after pleading with them, to go to their houses. And we then fitted a water meter that restricted their water usage to 350 litres per day. And those are the people that are very unhappy because they feel that they are able to pay for the water. But that's not the point. We don't need the money. We need the water to be safe. Yes, the city was warned in 2002, many years ago, and immediately the city at that stage and the leadership took a decision to conserve water. And so for the past 15 years, we actually even received an international award for our water conservation. And it's the same at city. In 2015 already, we started our first water restrictions. We started with level 1. We're now up to level 5. So it's simply not true that we did not respond, that our response is weak. with water, because there are so many uses, we all have a responsibility. Yes, it's our responsibility to supply the water. People must understand that water doesn't come out of a tap when you open the tap. There's a big process that needs to be followed before that clean water can get into your household. So we do ask everyone to help us to save water.
Is it true, because we understand there is also suggestions that national government was hampering your processes in getting ready for the impending crisis?
Well, now we are working together with national government. I just had a meeting yesterday with the Minister of Water Affairs, where we discussed how we can partner, the partnership between the City of Cape Town and national government. We're also having a meeting next week, Tuesday, with the Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Committee, where again, we will be putting our plans forward to the President and to the other ministers. We are working together. We have got different roles and responsibilities, and we try and accept what is our role, what is the role of national. Yes, it is national's role to supply water, and that is their constitutional obligation. But we are working together because we also own infrastructure in the City of Cape Town, because it's only together that we will be able to weather the storm.
The festive season is around the corner. You're expecting a lot of visitors to Cape Town. Will you be able to cope as the city in relation to giving people at least one glass of water?
Yes, Elvis, I would like to invite you to come and visit Cape Town. We invite all people from Gauteng and all over the country to come and visit our city. We will be ready to receive you as always. Come and enjoy your holiday with us. We have got a plan. We only ask all the visitors coming to our city to please save like a local. So you will find when you arrive at the airport, when you arrive by train, by car, if you stay in a hotel or a guest house, or on the city website, we've got many tips as to how you can help us to save water. What is also happening in December, Elvis, is that we find about 500,000 people leave Cape Town to go to other destinations around the country and around the world. We also have the schools closing for the school, 6 weeks for the school holidays. We have many of the commercial companies closing down. We've got a construction companies closing down. And because there's a reduced use of water from those sectors, it sort of balances out the need. And so tourists will account for about an extra 1% of people coming into the city, and we can easily manage that.
Mayor, all the best of luck, and I hope you, as the city, pull through this water crisis.
And thank you for the opportunity.
That was the Mayor of City of Cape Town, Patricia de Lille, joining us from our Cape Town studios in Sea Point, the Executive Mayor there. Now, we'll take a short break. When we return, we have more for you. Don't go away.
A lot of us rely on tech to survive, and Africa is already a mobile-first continent.
We build mobile technology that connects motorcycle taxis to commuters and businesses in real time.
My phone was the most important thing.
Africans are using technology to innovate. On Network, we have African technology and social media news. Even robots have heard about us.
Hello, watch Network on SABC.
For African technology and social media news, join Ms. Phumelele Zondi on Network every Sunday at 9 p.m.
As you can recall, our top story earlier today was the Public Enterprise Minister Ben Martins that has denied allegations that he attended a high tea party in Johannesburg with Susan Daniels, AJ Gupta, Salim Essa and Duduzane Zuma. Let's go to the media briefing live.
Yesterday, what I find rather strange is the reports that I've read in regard to articulation at yesterday's portfolio committee. Namely that there's a meeting, a tea party or coffee party that she was invited to. And when she arrived at the venue, I was there, Mr. AJ Gupta was there, Duduzane Zuma was there, and a Chinese lady. And in regard to that, it's not articulated what I said at the meeting, what I did at the meeting. But what I read was that at one stage, as a result of his thick Indian accent, what Ms. Daniels could gather was that AJ Gupta asked a question as to how far the Brian Molefe matter had gone. And she replied that there were other political parties joining the issue, so that there wasn't a court date at that time. Thereafter, she says she left the meeting, went home, closed the door, and poured herself a generous glass of whiskey. Now, with all due respect, Ms. Daniels is the suspended company secretary stroke legal advisor of Eskom. Ms. Daniels is trained as a lawyer. I find it difficult to believe that a person of that nature can go into a meeting and remember almost nothing about the meeting, except one question that was posed to her. I find it very difficult to believe. So where I've interacted with Ms. Daniels, I might be wrong on the count, but it's at least 3 to 4 times. 3 to 4 times context was when the issue of Mr. Brian Molefe was discussed between the ministry, that's the Minister of Public Enterprises, myself as the Deputy Minister of Public Enterprises, the Director General of the Department of Public Enterprises, Mr. Richard Sileke, and Dr. Ben Ngubane, the erstwhile chairperson of Eskom. To those meetings, Ms. Daniels accompanied Dr. Ben Ngubane, as she was the company secretary of Eskom and the legal advisor. And the issues that were canvassed at that stage was when she had written a report on behalf of Eskom as in a capacity as the legal advisor and company secretary, articulating to the Minister of Public Enterprises as to why Mr. Brian Molefe had to be paid 30 million. And in the course of those discussions, the minister asked a pertinent question as to when he was employed, when he resigned or disengaged his employment from Eskom, and all the ramifications of this and how the quantum figure of 30 million was reached. In the context of those meetings, my articulation was that I did not have the sense that the minister, in regard to the Brian Molefe matter, was getting a full report in regard to all the issues around there. And I said to her that as the company secretary, as the legal advisor, you have a responsibility to the principal to give full disclosure of everything that you know. So that's the context in which I've met her, in Tshwane, Pretoria, and also in Cape Town. So the meeting, the alleged phantom coffee tea party meeting that was spoken about yesterday, I have not been party to such a meeting. That's all I can say, ladies and gentlemen.
That opens the floor. And I just want to say, in terms of time and also the fairness to the media, I will allow only every person one question and not to follow. Okay, you can first.
Okay, so then this is a double-barreled question.
Make it one.
It's a double-barreled question with a comma in between. So the first half of this question then is, are you then calling Ms. Daniels a liar? And the second question is then, where were you on the 29th of July 2017, if not at this, quote, phantom coffee tea meeting?
Okay, the next one. Mariam. And Annika.
Good morning, Mariam Mountain Daily Maverick. Just a very quick one. Deputy Minister, is this not just perhaps a case of protesting too much? Surely the committee will afford you an opportunity to present your side of it. Now there is, you know, you step out of caucus, you have these facilities available to you as a Deputy Minister. Is it really just not a case of protesting too much? Thank you.
Annika.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Annika Larson here from ENCA. Have you ever met with any of the Gupta brothers? Thank you very much.
I will allow the Deputy Minister to respond, and then I'll take a final round.
In regard to the first question, she's a liar. The second half of your question, I would have to check my diary where I was on the whatever date it was articulated in July. As I said, I've not checked my diary. I've not asked any staff where I was on that day. As I said, I've only interacted with these allegations late last night when I came out of Parliament. It's correct. I'm hoping that I will also be given a chance to appear in front of the Portfolio Committee's hearings. Then one would be able to answer questions posed there. In regard to if I met the Gupta brothers, I have met the Gupta brothers. One of the first occasions when I met the Gupta brothers was after my appointment as the Deputy Minister of Public Enterprises. Not this term, around 2013, the first time I was appointed as the Deputy Minister of Public Enterprises. And that's when the family had organized an Indian fair at their place in Saxonwold, and the public was invited there. An array of people went to that fair. I went to that fair, I interacted with them and everybody else who was there. The second time I met one of the Gupta brothers was the middle brother. I forget his name right now. That's after I was appointed as the Minister of Transport. There was a TNA media session organized with Broadcasting House, and in preparation for that meeting, I spoke to that brother, and he told me how proceedings would be run for that day. So that's when I met with the middle brother. And I've also had occasion to meet with Tony Gupta. He once came to my house with Lucky Montana Government House in Pretoria. And that was to discuss a matter relevant to transport at that stage.
Okay, can I ask you, it's a follow-up. Okay, it's a follow-up, and afterwards I must also allow the media in Victoria. Follow-up, Annika.
Thank you for indulging me, Deputy Minister. Deputy Minister, why on earth would you go to an Indian fair at Saxon World, with due respect, as a man in your position? I mean, I just don't understand why you would compromise yourself like that.
No, there was no compromise. There was a food fair that they hosted at their property. And as I said, it was a public invitation to several ministers and anybody from the public there. So it was an open meeting that everyone could attend. I attended that meeting.
Okay, it's enough now. Can I just hang on? Unfortunately, the screen is dark on that side. Any questions in Pretoria? Any questions in Pretoria?
Thank you, Chairperson. We don't have questions from Pretoria.
Okay, it's a final round in Cape Town. 1, 2, 3. Can I see anybody in the left? 4, and then we're done. Okay, can I start with Felix?
Yes, ma'am.
I just still need clarity on this fair that you went to. You went there as a minister, or you went there as a South African, a member of the public? Because we were not invited. You're just going on about how it was a public invitation open to everyone, as if it was open to everyone in the true sense. So did you go there as a minister, or did you know? My other question, Deputy Minister, when the public protector investigated the state of capture, she extended an invitation to you. Did you honor it? And if not, why not?
Okay.
Linda Inns for Business Day. Minister, how can you accuse Suzanne Daniels of being a liar when you haven't checked your diary, you haven't found out where you were on that day, and what possible reason would she have to misrepresent to the committee? The second question is, what possible legitimacy was there for Tony Gupta to accompany Lucky Montana to your house to discuss transport matters? Did you raise this as a matter of dispute or query it at all? And yeah, thank you.
Good morning, Bianca Capizorio from The Times. Deputy Minister, you mentioned that Suzanne Daniels is a liar. Are you going to be taking legal action against her at all?
I will take the... Oh.
From the NN7. Minister, I just want to find out why do you think Ms. Daniels is implicating you in any wrongdoing, and have you rather informed the committee about the rejection of the allegations that she has put against you?
Thank you very much. In regard to why I think she would implicate me in this matter, what's this?
No reason at all.
Excuse me, Linda. Please allow the Deputy Minister to respond.
The only issue that I can think as to why she would seek to put me into a meeting where I was not goes back to my interaction with her in regard to the Brian Molefe matter. My questions that I posed to her in regard to her responsibilities as the company secretary, as the legal advisor of Eskom. Subsequent to that, she was suspended. Presently, she is the suspended company secretary of Eskom. I had no role in her suspension. I don't have the power to suspend her. So that's a board decision that was taken. So that's the only issue that I can surmise in regard to that. The issue of the food fair, my recollection was that that was a public thing to which anybody and everybody was invited. That's the view that I recall. I went there in my personal capacity. It was not an official meeting where it was said that ministers are invited, this is where you sit or whatever. It was just a fair where the people were cooking and showing the different foodstuffs.
On the anchor, legal action.
What? The legal action, yes, I'll take legal action. I'll see what happens in regard to this.
And in the meeting with AJ Gupta and Mr. Montana, why did you accept his presence at a transport meeting where he had no interest at all?
It was not, the meeting, ma'am, was not at official meeting. If I may recap, there was an issue in regard to the changing renewal of the board. And Lucky Montana and Sfiso Buthelezi wrote me a letter in regard to that matter, saying that they believed that there was influence from the Guptas to have them removed as the chair of the board, which was Sfiso Buthelezi, and Lucky was the CEO. And I told them that nobody can tell me to remove people from boards unfairly if they've done nothing wrong. And I raised this issue on a phone call to Tony Gupta and said that here's an issue that was raised, the letter that I've received. What do you have to say in regard to this? And in order to resolve this matter, I invited both parties to my house in Pretoria. And this issue was discussed. And subsequent to that, Sfiso Buthelezi remained the chairperson of PRASA. And Lucky Montana remained in his position as CEO. They were not removed there. Oh, my apologies, ma'am. The questions, I received the letter from the public protector and I answered all those questions and sent the statement.
Did she invite you for an interview?
No, she didn't invite me. They just sent me a set of questions and I responded to the questions.
Okay. That's the end of the briefing. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy. You stand there now.
Deputy Minister, I just want to get clarity on something, if that's okay. I may have misheard you, and I don't want to get you incorrectly. You said that who wanted you to remove someone from the PRASA board?
It was alleged that Tony Gupta or somebody in the Guptas wanted the board members removed. Lucky Montana as the CEO and Sfiso Buthelezi as the chairperson.
Who made the allegation? Was it in the media?
No. They wrote me a letter making this allegation.
The two of them wrote to you saying Tony Gupta wants us out?
Yeah, Lucky Montana wrote me a letter to that effect.
And so you called Mr. Montana
and
Mr. Gupta to your home to discuss it?
Deputy Minister, sorry, I just want clarity on your reference to this meeting as a tea party. Are you being figurative? Because she never said it was a tea party.
I don't know what she said. At one stage, she was...
She said it was an informal meeting.
No, it was somewhere in the press. It appears that she was invited to a coffee or tea party. Yes. So I'm not being facetious. It's on the basis of what I had between my two meetings.
Well, that was the press briefing. I'm Ben Martins, of course, giving his side of the story. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back.
Show me a greater power on the whole continent of Africa. Show me a greater power anyway.
The 6th of June 1918 was the establishment of our movement to maintain that
we need to do something about the educational upliftment of the Afrikaner, and we also need to do something about the economic upliftment of the Afrikaner. And that was the two main goals at that stage in 1918.
The Broederbond never was a cultural organization. It was a state-capturing organization. It is, in fact...
I like that term.
It has captured the financial systems. It has captured the parastatals. It has captured cultural organizations.
For all your constitutional and legal matters, tune into Rights and Recourse on Sundays between 2 and 3 Central African Time.
I think winter is definitely one of those seasons where you can really show off your sartorial choices. You can start from a single layer of a shirt, actually starting with thermals, build it up with the shirts. You can have beautiful knits over the shirts, like we've done with Jay.
This film tells the story of a very, very significant political figure in the struggle for freedom in South Africa, who happened to be a woman. She was Nelson Mandela's wife.
The exhibition is an exploration into black femininity. Tabitha is a woman of colour, and she is exploring the historical exploitation of the black female body.
Newtown Junction Mall hosted an epic contest in the cold where 3 top South African graffiti artists battled it out for the opportunity to become the Newtown Graffiti Face-Off Master.
For your weekly dose of entertainment news, tune into Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1.
Welcome back. My name is Kendall Makamate, and it's time to have a little bit of sports before we get into the weekend. Now, things have improved in the Bafana camp just a couple of hours, just over 24 hours before their must-win 2018 World Cup qualifier against Senegal. All 25 players are in camp, and Coach Stuart Baxter can start to work on his tactics. Number 1 goalkeeper Itumeleng Khune, as you also know, was also able to train for the very first time, despite the fracture to his cheekbone.
South African football lovers waited with bated breath to see whether Khune would be available for 2 crucial back-to-back matches against Senegal. This follows a freak accident between the Kaizer Chiefs shortstopper and Chippa United forward Kat Lenkis in Port Elizabeth on Sunday. Khune suffered a fractured cheekbone, which had everyone worried, including Bafana coach Stuart Baxter. But Baxter says they are cautiously optimistic about Khune's injury situation leading up to Friday's match.
He's one to arrive this morning. He's done some coordination work to test his vision, and this afternoon he'll be getting his mask, and then we'll be testing him diving to see if there's any possibility at all. At the moment it's impossible to say because his vision is not impaired greatly, but we don't know how the mask is going to affect that again, and we don't know how he's going to feel when he's banging himself on the ground. But we'll check that this afternoon.
Baxter is also happy that FIFA have fully explained Bongani Zungu's situation. Zungu will only miss the match in Polokwane, but will be available for the away leg in Dakar next Tuesday, despite having received a red card against Burkina Faso last month.
Bongani Zungu, we've got clarification from FIFA, and he is available for the second game. It was a 1 game, and it was the 1 game starting with our home game. So that's finished, and then he'll be available for the second game.
Veteran midfielder Piwe Shabalala is ready to help Bafana achieve their dream of going to Russia next year.
I know the importance of the game. It's not important to Bafana only. I think it's important for us as South Africans, to rally behind the national team and make sure that we do well here at home first, and then 3 or 4 days later, we also do well and qualify for World Cup. And for me, I think it's it's business as usual. You know, I'll do my best both on and off the field, you know, to help the team.
Shabalala remains the second most capped Bafana Bafana player ever. The 33-year-old midfielder, who has been in very good form for his club in recent months, has 90 caps under his belt. Sfeso Ramara, SABC News, Polokwane.
Now, with that crucial match just over 24 hours away, Sports Live last night spoke to Lutz van den Stiel, the head of scouting and international relations at German football club TSG Hoffenheim. He had some interesting words for youngsters that are keen on getting to play in Europe. Have a listen.
In general, what is a European club looking for? I think that it is obviously that if you bring in a young African player, that tactically he's not really that advanced yet. He needs to learn. In Germany, we are having at the moment the problem that our youth system is creating lots of good players, but the players are quite similar because they're going through the same routines. So you don't have that outstanding special talent that individual players. You know, it's like a footballer who can play on the street. In Africa, you have that players. You go especially to the Western African side, Cameroon, Nigeria, Ghana. You're having that really exciting players, which, tactically they need to learn a lot, but they have these individual skills very fast, one against one, and that is what at the moment maybe in the German youth is missing. The rules, it's a bit difficult to bring underage players from Africa or from South America to Europe at the moment, but as you said, you know, if a player with 21, 22, 23 is still playing in Africa, he has it very difficult to make that step into one of the top leagues. Of course, there's always the diversion via Belgium, via Holland, via Portugal, but to go to Italy, Spain, France, Germany or England, I think you really need to be over there quite early in the age of 18, 19 to get used to the level, to get used to the speed, and it is a little bit of a different football. So I think it's very important that these young South African players, they need to come over as soon as possible and don't really wait too long.
Well, there you have it. Get there as soon as you can. Don't wait too long. If you want to play in the top leagues in Europe, get there as early as you can. And you know what? You're African. You're from this part of the world. You actually have the skills innate in you, like our Feinstein just said. We're taking a short break. We'll be back shortly. You're watching Newsroom. Stay with us. We've got more news at the top of the hour.
I think winter is definitely one of those seasons where you can really show off your sartorial choices. You can start from a single layer of a shirt, actually starting with thermals, build it up with the shirts. You can have beautiful knits over the shirts, like we've done with Jay.
This film tells the story of a very, very significant political figure in the struggle for freedom in South Africa, who happened to be a woman. She was Nelson Mandela's wife.
The exhibition is an exploration into black femininity. Tabitha is a woman of colour, and she is exploring the historical exploitation of the black female body.
Newtown Junction Mall hosted an epic contest in the cold where 3 top South African graffiti artists battled it out for the opportunity to become the Newtown Graffiti Face-Off Master.
For your weekly dose of entertainment news, tune into Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1.
Luambo, Africa. This is the final hour here in the newsroom. I'm Elvis Preslin.
Good morning to you. I'm Kendall Mahamat.
Now today we focus on South Africa, a semi-arid water-stressed country, and we are facing a major problem with our water in this country, Kendall.
Absolutely, and semi-arid South Africa has been ever since we've discovered that South Africa exists. Now I want to find out from you, how do you think we can manage our water resources better? Because yes, we are faced with a dire situation across the country.
Well, you are telling us, Luambo on the Twitter handle says lots of vehicles and car washes spill down clean water, more that we ever noticed. So if we have 12 million registered vehicles, just how many liters has been used? Good question.
Tsepo Mhapi says, why are we still using clean drinking water to flush toilets instead of exploring other technology like grey water systems?
Use a grey water system. Let the government subsidize somebody and let them give us water tanks to get all this water that gets lost in the drains.
Use the water from your bath to water your garden to flush your toilet, surely.
Yes. So let us know what's on your mind. But today we also focus on the State Security Agency. Now, they've sent yet another cease and desist letter to the author of the book, The President's Keepers.
Jack Bao has been told he must cease and desist, make sure all his books are withdrawn from bookshelves, and we want to find out from you. There was a power outage though at his launch at the Hyde Park Mall just last night, and we want to find out from you, do you think it was A, coincidence, or B, an accident, or C, sabotage?
Well, 364 of you are suggesting, in that 364, 75% of you are suggesting that it is, or that it was, sabotage. 9% says, oh, it was just an accident. 16% say, might be coincidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And Google later says you don't need Solomon's wisdom to realize that it was sabotage.
Lessian says, clue, kinda deliberate, isn't it? Yeah. Well, there you have it. Those are some of the clues. No conspiracy theory there. But another conspiracy theory, perhaps, is Itumeleng Khune.
Well, the conspiracy theory would be with regards to the player that clattered into him in that match over the weekend. But never mind that. We moved on since then, and we're finding out from you, has Itumeleng Khune's injury shown up South Africa's lack of depth in the goalkeeping department? We'll be getting lots of comments from you throughout the course of the morning. But let's see what else is being said.
Jambase says, yes, we don't have goalkeepers here in this country. Why not?
Hey, Maringa says, Khune is still injured. What if Bafana loses this game? We're still going to blame the coach why he played an injured player. Yeah.
Keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. But right now, let's get down to business and take a look at your news headlines. The Deputy Public Enterprises Minister Ben Martins denies allegations that he attended a tea party with AJ Gupta, Salim Essa and Duduzane Zuma. A second gag order by the State Security Agency against Jacques Pauw's book, The President's Keepers, was sent to his editor yesterday. And more details on how over 100 mentally ill patients lost their lives are currently being revealed at the Esidimeni arbitration hearings. Those are your headlines, but before we get there, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front.
Elvis, thank you very much. Good morning to you. Quite a lot happening in the world of sports. A big happening today is we've got the Nedbank Golf Challenge, which teed off at 9 o'clock. Quite a lot of South Africans in that lineup. A little earlier, we saw Brendan Grace putting in a putt. And let's see, we'll make sure that we stay close to that one over the course of this bulletin to make sure that we bring you up to date with what's happening at the Nedbank Golf Challenge. Now, in other sports that we've got for today, this is what we have. Just 1 day away from the crucial back-to-back World Cup qualifying tie against Senegal, and the focus really is still on Itumeleng Khune's fitness to take his place between the sticks.
At the moment, it's impossible to say because his vision is not impaired greatly, but we don't know how the mask is going to affect that again, and we don't know how he's going to feel when he's banging himself on the ground.
And the Ram Slam T20 rolls into action tomorrow, and with Otis Gibson, South Africa's new coach, just starting his tenure, everyone will be looking to impress.
You go and do well against the sides in this competition, and you could easily find yourself in a squad somewhere like that, and I think that's very exciting.
Yeah, John Smuts, the captain of the Warriors, who will be playing 3 back-to-back matches as the Ram Stamp T20 2017 opens up. All this and more I've got for you later on at 11:35. Do stay with Elvis as he's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Public Enterprises Deputy Minister Ben Martins has denied allegations that he met with a Gupta family member and Duduzane Zuma earlier this year. Martins was responding to allegations by Suzanne Daniels that he met with Tony Gupta and Duduzane Zuma. Now, Daniels made the allegations during her testimony before the parliamentary inquiry on state capture yesterday.
Ms. Daniels is trained as a lawyer. I find it difficult to believe that a person of that stature can go into a meeting and remember almost nothing about the meeting except one question that was posed to her. I find it very difficult to believe. So where I've interacted with Ms. Daniels, I might be wrong on the count, but it's at least 3 to 4 times. 3 to 4 times context was when the issue of Mr. Brian Molefe was discussed between the ministry, that's the Minister of Public Enterprises, myself as the Deputy Minister of Public Enterprises, the Director General of the Department of Public Enterprises, Mr. Richard Sileke, and Dr. Ben Ngubane, the erstwhile chairperson of Eskom. To those meetings, Ms. Daniels accompanied Dr. Ben Ngubane, as she was the company secretary of Eskom and the legal advisor. And the issues that were canvassed at that stage was when she had written a report on behalf of Eskom as in a capacity as the legal advisor and company secretary, articulating to the Minister of Public Enterprises as to why Mr. Brian Molefe had to be paid 30 million. And in the course of those discussions, the minister asked a pertinent question as to when he was employed, when he resigned or disengaged his employment from Eskom, and all the ramifications of this and how the quantum figure of 30 million was reached. In the context of those meetings, my articulation was that I did not have the sense that the minister, in regard to the Brian Molefe matter, was getting a full report in regard to all the issues around there. And I said to her that as the company secretary, as the legal advisor, you have a responsibility to the principal to give full disclosure of everything that you know. So that's the context in which I've met her, in Tshwane, Pretoria, and also in Cape Town. So the meeting, the alleged phantom coffee tea party meeting that was spoken about yesterday, I have not been party to such a meeting.
Now, for more on the story, we now cross to our reporter, Monalisa Dubasi, who was at the media briefing. Monalisa, very good morning to you and welcome. Monalisa, can you hear me? Monalisa, are you there? Good morning. Monalisa? Oh, it seems like Monalisa can't hear me that side. If we can just see if we can connect with him just to give us an update as to what transpired there and, you know, let us know what came out of the final briefing. Meanwhile, we're going to see if we can connect him. We'll see if we can do that right away. If not, we'll continue. Another family member, Luleka Kunjwa, has detailed the shocking conditions of her sister, Maureen Kunjwa, when she visited her at one of the NGO's Takalani. Kunjwa was transferred from the Life Esidimeni to the NGO in April 2016.
When I arrived there, I was very shocked.
Ms. Kunjwa, is this still June 2016?
End of June.
End of June.
She was very weak. She could not stand on her own. In January, when they took her back, she could walk on herself because they took a taxi. Because I was holding him against the windows there at Takalani because she was very weak. I made her to balance so that she could not fall.
Was she staying in a ward at Takalani?
That day.
No, on that day I did not ask.
When you visited her, you visited her outside?
Yes.
They brought her to you?
To the reception.
To the reception, okay.
Mangimncikisa kuvele kufike ukuthi ithi ngimthatha isithombe ngoba wondile uyambona nokuthi umzimba wakhe womile.
When I was balancing her there on the wall there, I decided to take a picture because I saw that she had lost a lot of weight and it seems like she looked very dehydrated.
And phela bekuwumuntu ophuma izincwe. Manje I was surprised with why I dry.
He was someone who like
she was dribbling.
Yeah, she was dribbling, so I was surprised on that particular day as to why her mouth was dry.
So ndo nyambuza ukuthi manki, all right?
I was asking her, are you okay? He was not responding, he was just saying, not saying anything very clear.
Mangibizwa usister lo, ngoba bathi usister, ngimazi igama lakhe ngilikhohliwe.
And when I called the sister, well, I do not know the name of the sister. I was told that she's a sister. I asked what was her problem when she looks like this. She said, we also don't know. We are also surprised. We are still checking, still investigating. And I made her sit on the chair. It was difficult, very difficult, because she could not speak. I was just keeping quiet, looking at her.
So ngayitshela ukuthi le inkulu phela le ndaba. Bese ngiza like after 2 days, after 2 days.
Later on, I left the place and I said to myself, now this is a very big problem. I was like coming frequently after 2 days, like coming to check her.
You mean you went to visit her every 2 days?
Yes.
Yes, Council.
And when you went to visit her, did you go to where she was sleeping? Or did you always meet her in the reception?
They would bring her at the reception because we were instructed to wait there at the reception.
Was there a visiting area?
Kusho njengoba singene egate ioffice inyana yabo lapha la usayina khona iregister. Uhlale bahambe bayomlanda bese bayaskipha sihlala lapha ngaphandle, it's like a veranda.
When you get in the gate, there is a small office where you sign in the register, and there's a veranda there. So we'll sit there and they will go and fetch her. We're sitting under the veranda.
So you went to see her every 2 days or so, every other day. And how was her condition each time you went to see her?
It seems like the condition was worsening.
The arbitration process is continuing here in Parktown, Johannesburg. We'll keep you abreast of those arbitration processes as we continue. Meanwhile, the State Security Agency has sent yet another cease and desist letter to get the book the president's keepers withdrawn from the bookshelves, but this time the letter was sent to its title editor, Russell Martin. That was yesterday. The author Jacques Poe revealed this during the official launch of his book in Johannesburg yesterday. However, the launch had to be abandoned due to a power failure.
They gathered in their hundreds to hear what motivated Jacques Poe's book. It contains explosive new allegations of corruption involving President Jacob Zuma. The award-winning journalist has been receiving death threats since the announcement of the book, but says he's undeterred.
I approached this book as a journalist, not as an author. And I approached this book as a former investigative journalist. I knew that just people telling me stories, just people revealing things to me are not enough, that I had to see things on paper. Now, many of the things I reveal in the book are not on paper. You know, for example, when I revealed death squads in the police in 1989, God, it's a long time ago, but anyway, there was nothing on paper. It wasn't as though there was a document that had the headline establishing Vlakplaas or Vlakplaas, the death squad, or anything like that. I had to rely on sources.
40 minutes into a discussion about the book, the conversation had to be cut short due to a power cut.
We didn't think of a power outage, to be honest with you. I thought we'd got over those issues. And there's always been generators here, very powerful generators, and the generators should have taken care of any power outage. So right now I'm a bit flummoxed as to explain to you why we had no power.
With only 3 weeks in the market, the book has already sold more than 25,000 copies as more orders keep coming in.
Public Enterprises Deputy Minister Ben Martins has denied those allegations that he met with the Gupta family member Duduzane and Zuma earlier this year. Duduzane Zuma earlier this year. Now, Martins was responding to the allegations that was by Susan Daniels that he met with Tony Gupta as well as Duduzane Zuma. Daniels made those allegations during her testimony before the parliamentary inquiry on state capture yesterday. Now, for more on the story, let's now cross to our reporter, Manalisi Dubase, who was at the media briefing. A very good morning to you, Manalisi. I hope you can hear me now.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Wonderful. You were at the media briefing. What came out of that for you? Because Ben Martins denied ever meeting the Guptas or even Duduzane Zuma. He calls it, what did he call it? A phantom meeting.
Well, you know, it's hard to know exactly what's the truth, but if one looks back to the briefing by Ms. Daniels before the committee yesterday, she took the committee step by step as to how he got to meet Mr. Ajay Gupta. She told the committee that the meeting was arranged by Mr. Ismail Issa, the guy who's been at the center of this whole controversy between ESCOM, Regiment Capital, Trilliant, and Mackenzie. She says this meeting was supposed to be at the a hotel in Melroad Arc. And she says in that day of the meeting, she met with Mr. Issa at the reception of the hotel. And at the back of the hotel, there are sort of townhouses where Mr. Issa led her to. At the lounge of this townhouse, there were 4 individuals. Mr. Ajay Gupta, Mr. Duduzane Zuma, Deputy Minister Ben Martins, and a Chinese lady she couldn't identify. And she says in that meeting, it became clear that Mr. Gupta was particularly interested to know how far is the court case between Eskom and Mr. Brian Molefe? And in the process, he insinuated that he wanted this court case to be postponed until December 2017, and that he was going to talk to people high up to make sure that the case is being postponed. And she said that during the process, she mumbled something about Ms. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, but she couldn't clear properly because of Mr. Ajay Gupta's strong Indian accent and the fact that she was very, very shocked that she has been called in a meeting like that. So today, Mr. Ben Martin came in to deny all those allegations, although he couldn't say that on that date, which Ms. Daniels is saying that they met at Melrose, where was he? He couldn't, recall where exactly was he during that date, but he is nevertheless vehemently denying the allegations.
Now, he's denying the allegations, but is he suggesting, or did you pick up maybe that he will take legal steps in order to rectify the allegations made against him?
That's what even confusing even further, because if you can't, first of all, recall where were you during that date, because it should have been a very special date. But secondly, and you deny the allegations nevertheless. But in all that, you are still going to take legal action. It's just, your guess probably is as good as mine here, Elvis. It's really confusing.
Monalisa, thank you so much for that report. That was Monalisa Dubase, our reporter in Parliament, giving us an update on that media briefing. Of course, that happened a little bit earlier. Well, what do you make of it? Was there a meeting or was it a phantom meeting? That's the question we want to pose to you, but there's other stories that we need to follow up because as we continue right now. President Jacob Zuma is expected back in Parliament today. Now he will be delivering his annual address in the National Council of Provinces. Last week, the President was in Parliament for a question and answer session which the EFF boycotted. The Democratic Alliance walked out of the House. Today will be the President's last engagement in Parliament for this year. He was in the National Assembly last week, Thursday, for his last oral reply session. He's now expected to have his annual address in the NCOP today. The theme for this year's address is Deepening Unity in Action for Inclusive Growth and Africa's Renewal, reclaiming the legacy of O.R. Tambo. The presidency says in memory of O.R. Tambo, the President will give an update on the progress made in improving the quality of life of the people, especially the poor and the working class. MPs in the NCOP will also have an opportunity to debate the President's address. ANC Treasurer General and Presidential hopeful Dr. Zweli Mkhize says that he doesn't have a dream team or a slate for the upcoming elective conference. Addressing the Cape Town Press Club yesterday, he was questioned about the state of the party as well as the other current issues.
Mkhize said he would like to be given an opportunity to lead the ANC, but he says he doesn't have any preferred candidates whose names he wants on his slate.
We must always be ready to lead with those who have been elected to lead with us. And that is how I see the matter. And at a personal level, I can lead with anybody. I don't have a restriction of a particular type personality that when we have to lead, I can't handle. That's a personal statement.
Peppered with questions about corruption, Mkhize acknowledged that the scourge comes at the expense of all South Africans, especially the poor. He said the party has to demonstrate the ability to self-correct. This, he said, should be uppermost in the minds of delegates going into the conference. He was also asked about the possibility of a split in the ruling party.
There's been a lot of talk about that, and I think we want to handle this issue with the sensitivity that no one amongst us wishes to see an ANC split. We don't want to see a split. We also don't want the recklessness in the management of the issues of the African National Congress to ultimately give us an unintended consequence of the ANC splitting. We want to work hard and make every effort to avoid the African National Congress from ever splitting. Doesn't help this country, It didn't, we've had lessons in the past, and I think that those lessons remain very, very important.
Mkhize said he is committed to taking the country forward as leader of the party, but he did acknowledge that this December conference is going to be a very interesting one. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Cape Town.
ANC Gauteng chairperson Paul Mashatile says the ANC could lose its majority in 2019 elections. He says there are potential parties which the ANC could form a coalition government with. The Gauteng chairperson spoke exclusively to the SABC on how critical the outcome of the ANC's elective conference will be.
We think there are parties there that think more alike with us. They may be more radical, but we can work together.
Are you saying you're open to it because it is a possibility?
It is a possibility. I think gone are the days where parties will come out with 70% and those big percentages. It's going to be tight. So we must always be willing to work with those who can share your common goal.
It is familiar territory for the ANC in Gauteng particularly. The party lost 2 metros last year but managed to regain control of Ekurhuleni through a coalition. But another risk looms amid a highly divisive campaign. Another ANC breakaway.
That risk is there. In fact, we are worried about that. We don't want a situation where if a particular candidate wins, others decide we are leaving.
Mashatile says the ANC would need strong leadership to avert these lurking crises. A winning team, he says. Ironically, presidential candidate Cyril Ramaphosa listed Mashatile as a Treasurer General of his winning team. This to the surprise of the ANC Gauteng chairperson.
If the Deputy President approached me, I would have said to him, that's not the right way. You can't announce what may amount to slates.
Albeit, Mashatile says, of the 479 branches, more than 250 have completed their nomination meetings and Ramaphosa is enjoying the popularity to succeed President Jacob Zuma. Aldrin Simpier, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, with the ANC National Elective Conference now just weeks away, the majority of the branches in the Northern Cape have shown support for the CR17 campaign. Less than 10 branches are still to convene their general meetings with a few disputes cited. The ANC in the province says it is delighted that their branches followed through with their pronouncement on support of the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa.
With just 5 weeks left before the ANC elective conference, the majority of Northern Cape branches have decided to follow what they call principle. So far, only 5 branches nominated Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma as the next ANC president, compared to 147 branches that are supporting Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa. Francis Bart, the biggest region in the province, has announced that at least 42 out of its 45 branches have also nominated Ramaphosa.
But where we are at the moment, there's no NDZ and CR17 Francis Bart. There might be NDZ in the street there. But in terms of outcomes of BGMs, and there is only one emphasis here, is Cyril Ramaphosa to become the president.
At its 8th elective conference, the province pronounced its support for the deputy president. However, some structures of the Youth and Women's League were following the mandate of their national leaders to support Dlamini Zuma. ANC Provincial Secretary Deshi Nganga says this reaffirms their commitment to following ANC principle.
We are confident that we've actually pronounced on the right name. The name that we've pronounced is Cyril Ramaphosa, but that name was actually informed by a bottom-up process. Branches actually at the provincial conference took a decision on which candidate should we actually support.
Despite the promising success of the CR17 campaign in the province, the leadership says it's aware that it's not out of the woods yet. It believes a true victory will come with Ramaphosa taking the position of leading the governing party. Neria Hlakutsa, SABC News, Kimberley.
A war of disputed numbers has erupted in the KwaZulu-Natal ANC. The disputed provincial leadership says that 30 of the province's 806 branches have lodged disputes, but Cyril Ramaphosa's supporters maintain 80 branches lodged complaints, citing mostly procedural irregularities.
KwaZulu-Natal was always going to be a highly contested province. 806 branches have to elect delegates and nominate their preferred leaders. 348 are yet to meet. Some branches allege manipulation of the voters' roll and procedures not being followed. Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma and Ramaphosa camps are disputing the exact number of complaints.
So, as I've indicated, we have got about 30 appeals. We received about 6 from head office yesterday. So those appeals will be processed together with the others that are coming from the province, from the branches.
The ANC court case appeal is due back in the Pietermaritzburg High Court at the end of the month. The PEC and the ANC's National Executive Committee are appealing the High Court ruling which nullified the results of the party's 2015 Provincial Elective Conference. I am Mhlongo, SABC News, Durban.
Across our border now, Zimbabwe's sacked Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa says that he's fled the country but has vowed to return to lead the ZANU-PF party. He was the foremost contender to succeed President Robert Mugabe, but he was expelled from the party on Monday. Now, this appears to have cleared the way for Mugabe's wife, Grace, to take over as the president.
There have been reports of deepening divisions in ZANU-PF after Mugabe dismissed the vice president.
We have dealt with him, and I hope we can deal with others who were conspirators. Alongside him.
Much to the delight of the First Lady, all ZANU-PF provinces endorsed her as their candidate for vice president.
I love my president. I respect my president. I will help him to make this country prosper.
At the same rally, the Minister of State for Manicaland claimed that she had stopped Mnangagwa trying to cross the border. Meanwhile, expelled war veterans have also weighed in. They addressed the media in Johannesburg.
When we then said there's something wrong with this man and his wife and the team, the cabal of called the G40, which was running the country, we freed the Zimbabweans mentally. And now we are all on the same page. So we are all united as Zimbabweans, and we are coming across the board. They from the MDC, the others, they are coming from the UNC. I was with them.
Newly formed party Viva Zimbabwe and Organization of the Zimbabwe Exiles have also joined the fray.
They want to talk about land. Nobody in my generation talks about land. They want to talk about mining. Nobody in my generation has got any mine. They want to talk about bond notes. Nobody in my generation has got money. So it's a generational consensus that has to take place where all those born in Zimbabwe have to find a point of convergence where they say we must reimagine the country.
We believe that the conditions that are currently there are not ripe for a free and fair election to be held. We want all parties that within Zimbabwe and the diaspora to commit to a national transitional authority that will eventually give birth to reform.
President Mugabe is yet to formally announce who will succeed Mnangagwa. Ntakwana Ngatana, SABC News.
Meanwhile, Zimbabwe's opposition leader Morgan Tsvangirai has appealed to his supporters and ordinary Zimbabweans to exercise calm and allow a democratic process to unfold in line with the constitution. Now, he was responding to the axing in Zimbabwe of the country's vice president, Emmerson Mnangagwa. He also assured his supporters that he is recovering well from treatment here in South Africa. SABC News spoke to Tsvangirai and we began by asking him about his health.
It's a traumatic experience for the country. You know, it's one thing to dismiss your vice president. It's another thing when that decision affects the stability of the country. I think it's a security risk, and I I find this whole decision totally not in sync with the imperatives that we are supposed to be confronted. So the decision that has been taken has far-reaching implications. Not only are you destabilizing the ruling party, you are also destabilizing the nation. However, I always plead that if the nation has to take the route towards unconstitutional change of government, then you may as well kiss the democratic project goodbye. And I hope that those who have the temptation to see opportunities for unconstitutional change are dissuaded from pursuing that.
Coming back home, fears are growing over a new deadly drug that has hit the streets of Durban. The drug known as flakka or gravel can cause hyperstimulation, aggression, hallucinations, and, according to some, even lead to cannibalistic tendencies. Last week, a man was arrested for allegedly selling the deadly drug.
The drug is called flakka, a drug that can turn its users into zombies and can also lead them to commit suicide. Experts say the drug can turn people into cannibals. Its origins are traced to Australia and America.
We're worried because of its great negative impact on the individual and people around him as well. It's in a form of crystal, like rough salt. So be wary about that. Some dealers are selling it off as cocaine, but it's really flakka, and the effects are totally different. The fact that it is launched now, it's November. Exams are going to be over next week or so. Parties are going to start. And I'm just urging all people who want to party, avoid this one.
Now it's made its way to the streets of Durban, especially in Wentworth, Pinetown and Chatsworth. An anti-drug forum in Chatsworth says it's already admitted 4 cases in hospital. The forum fears the drug could spread faster, especially during the festive season. A 32-year-old Nigerian has been arrested for allegedly selling the drug. He's appeared in court and remains in custody. Parents are warned to monitor their children closely as the drug could have dire consequences. Lungisi Kumalo, SABC News, Durban.
Violence against women, it also talks to such behavior where teachers, instead of educating kids and give them dignity, they strip them of their dignity.
The First Lady.
The First Lady, her action, it's just unacceptable. I must say that it cannot be condoned. If I had it my way, I would say we had to act and make sure that he goes to jail.
This scourge is not ceasing.
The angry people, the intolerant, it's so huge. So then the scourge finds itself within that particular environment. You cannot say that it's a standalone. It's influenced by social ills, economic challenges.
Join me in Port Sedu live every Monday to Thursday at 17:30.
Good morning, welcome back. I'm Kendall Makamata. It's time to bring you a little bit of sports ahead of a very busy weekend. Springbok coach Alistair Coetzee has described the upcoming European tour as a big challenge. Coetzee today will name his 23-man team to face Ireland in Dublin on Saturday. Now, after the Irish test, the Springboks tackle France in Paris, Italy in Padova and Wales in Cardiff on consecutive weekends. Ireland have won 4 of the last 6 home tests against South Africa. France 4 of the last 5. Italy the last, and Wales the last 2, leaving the tourists extremely wary of similar results. Stand-in captain Locke Eben Etzebeth was past fit after injuring an ankle in training 2 weeks ago, said the success or failure of the season hinges on what happens in Europe, and they are looking to get 4 wins. Now, things have improved in the Bafana camp ahead of their must-win 2018 World Cup qualifier against Senegal. All 25 players are in camp, and the coach, Stuart Baxter, can start to work on his tactics. #1 goalkeeper Itumeleng Khune was also able to train for the first time despite that fracture to his cheekbone. The only other injury concern is Andile Jali, who twisted his ankle. But due to his suspension for the match tomorrow, the medical staff are hoping that he recovers in time for the final match in Dakar on Tuesday. Khune, meanwhile, was put through his paces in the morning and tested out a facial mask in the afternoon training. An update on the players' availability and the conditions of such are expected at a press conference later today. Coach Stuart Baxter is happy after having received full clarity from FIFA regarding Bongani Zungu's suspension.
Bongani Zungu, we've got clarification from FIFA and he is available for the second game. It was a one game and it was the one game starting with our home game. So that's finished. And then he'll be available for the second game.
Lots of things to look forward to tomorrow to see if they actually make do without Zungu and maybe without even Itumeleng Khune. Now, with that match just over 24 hours away, just last night, Sports Live spoke to Lutz Pfaffenstiel, the head of scouting and international relations at German club TSG Hoffenheim. He had some very interesting words for youngsters that are keen on getting to play in Europe. Have a listen.
In general, what is a European club looking for? I think that it is obviously that if you bring in a young African player, that tactically he's not really that advanced yet. He needs to learn. In Germany, we are having at the moment the problem that our youth system is creating lots of good players, but the players are quite similar because they're going through the same routines. So you don't have that outstanding special talent that individual players. You know, it's like a footballer who can play on the street. In Africa, you have that players. You go especially to the Western African side, Cameroon, Nigeria, Ghana. You're having that really exciting players, which, tactically they need to learn a lot, but they have these individual skills very fast, one against one, and that is what at the moment maybe in the German youth is missing. The rules, it's a bit difficult to bring underage players from Africa or from South America to Europe at the moment, but as you said, you know, if a player with 21, 22, 23 is still playing in Africa, he has it very difficult to make that step into one of the top leagues. Of course, there is always the diversion via Belgium, via Holland, via Portugal, but to go to Italy, Spain, France, Germany or England, I think you really need to be over there quite early in the age of 18, 19 to get used to the level, to get used to the speed, and it is a little bit of a different football. So I think it's very important that these young South African players, they need to come over as soon as possible and don't really wait too long.
Moving on to other sporting stories, the coaching staff of the Eastern Cape cricket franchise, the Warriors, want their players to take the Ram Slam T20 challenge seriously so that they can draw the attention of the national selectors. The Eastern Cape side has, over the years, produced players such as Makaya Ntini, Lonwabo Tsotsobe, Wayne Parnell, Ashwell Prince and Mark Boucher. And last season, John Smuts made the national team. Head coach Malibongwe Maketa believes his younger players will put up a good performance this season.
The Warriors come off a good white ball 2016-2017 cricket season. They were losing finalists in both the shorter formats. The players are now eager to take it to the next step. The local T20 competition will also see the Proteas play after the postponement of the T20 Copa League. The Warriors and the Knights clash in Port Elizabeth on Friday. Players such as Davy Miller, Tinias De Bruin and Smuts will be in action under the new 27 million rand floodlights.
Yeah, look, I think the exciting thing at the moment about the national side is that Otis Gibson wants to widen his base. I think we've obviously seen it with selection. So I think not just for me personally, but I think for every player that's young and up and coming, you go and do well against the sides and in this competition, and you could easily find yourself in a squad somewhere like that, and I think that's very exciting for all the players.
Smuts wants to build on his performance of last season, finishing as the top scorer with 371 runs.
Well, last year is history now, so thank God for that. We're just focusing on each game at a time. We're not looking too far ahead in terms of how we go about this competition. We've always been a simple side who takes it game by game, and it's going to be no different now. We're starting from scratch, and we want to make sure that we execute our skills from game one, and that's been always our goal, not to really look too far ahead. And we look forward to the challenge, really. We're excited about last year's achievement, that we want to build on it. And yeah, we're quite conscious of the fact that we have to start from naught today.
The Warriors start their T20 campaign with 3 home matches, 2 at St. George's Park and 1 in East London, before 6 away matches. Zolani Moya, SABC News, Port Elizabeth.
Tell you what, this is probably going to be one of the most watched ever T20 challenges by Ram Slam, because we're going to have almost an entire roster of Proteas players playing domestic T20 for the first time in a really, really long time. Should be lots of fun, should be a firecracker. Now, Russia wants the United States to extradite the former head of its anti-doping laboratory, Grigory Rodchenkov. After traveling to the United States last year, Rodchenkov alleged a state-sponsored doping cover-up at the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi. Rodchenkov says Russia had allegedly orchestrated a sophisticated scheme to protect its doping cheats. This included substituting tainted urine samples with clean ones at the Sochi Games. Russia have repeatedly denied any wrongdoing. The International Olympic Committee has been retesting all Russian athletes' samples from the 2014 Games following these allegations. The IOC will decide on Russia's participation at the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics in February during its executive board meeting next month. Now in tennis, Canadian Denis Shapovalov has kept his semi-final hopes alive at the Next Generation ATP Finals in Milan. Shapovalov secured his first victory with a 4-set win over Italian wildcard Gianluigi Quinzi. Meanwhile, South Korea's Yeon Chung became the first player to book his place in the last 4. The tournament, featuring 8 promising young players, is using radical new rules aimed at increasing the popularity of the sport.
Shapovalov raced through the first 2 sets, dominating his fellow former junior Wimbledon champion 4-1, 4-1. The Italian, however, somehow found his rhythm, winning the third 4-3. Despite double faulting on his first match point, Shapovalov eventually claimed the victory. He must beat Russia's Andrei Rublev later on Thursday to reach the semi-finals.
Yeah, it was extremely tough. Gianluigi started playing unbelievable in the third set. You know, in the score when it was deuce, I had break point. He hit that insane volley. He just picked up his level. The crowd really carried him as well. So it was really tough, tough to stay in it mentally. I mean, he was playing incredible. So I'm really proud of myself.
Croatia's Borna Coric also worked hard for his victory over Russian Daniil Medvedev. Coric recorded a 4-2, 2-4, 4-1, 4-2 win to remain on track for the playoffs. Earlier, another Russian, Karen Khachanov, needed less than an hour to claim his first win at the event. Khachanov thrashed American Jared Donaldson in straight sets and will face Coric next. An unbeaten Chung easily qualified for the semi-finals. He beat Rublev 4-love, 4-1, 4-3 to surge ahead in Group A. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
All right, that's it. Thanks very much for having joined us. It sure has been a very interesting day. Newsroom. I'll be back tomorrow at the same time, same place, 9 o'clock until midday, with Elvis President to bring you more news, more analysis from the world of sports, economics, and politics. Until then, this is